The sheriff's office that 37-year-old Maurice Plumont is one of the civil people investigators wants to talk to and that he should not be called a suspect at this time.
Hi, it's Foshin with AmericanCivilDebate.com.
And this is TJ.
It's Corey.
This is Sherry.
How's everybody doing today?
Surviving.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the weekend.
All right. Once again, still the reminder, check out the Facebook page, the website. The website is, it's still live, right? While Melissa is under construction, she's giving us a makeover.
You know, let's let her get it done just so she can get it done before, because she's going to make it more spectacular.
Yeah.
It'll be beauteous.
Beauty.
She's going to bedazzle our
She's going to bedazzle
our
right?
website.
Yeah.
Dazzle the website.
She better be.
Right?
She better be.
It's going to be like strippers and glitter.
I like that already.
Really?
So, any listeners, first and foremost, I want to apologize. If you do hear the wind, if you were where we are, you wouldn't be so angry at hearing the breeze. Coming to you from Cape Coral, sunny Florida. I think we're near like COVID free, so we should be ready to celebrate. All the idiots are out of their house.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yes, they are.
I mean, yeah, definitely you can tell by driving in traffic that things are starting to get a little bit back to normal. They did, however, say that there was 1,200 new cases in Tampa area, but that's just because of the ramped up testing in that area. So it's not that it's spreading like a wildfire. It's the fact that people are being tested at a more frequent rate now. So, and you guys got to understand the thing about the COVID is there's a lot of people that will not have any symptoms whatsoever at all. There's some that will be asymptomatic. So you might feel like you just had the common cold. Guess what? You had coronavirus.
Right.
You know,
You got the corona.
you got the Rona. But the
This is not the drip.
No. The thing is that when you look at what's going around in the country, and who I really feel bad for is the people of Michigan. I mean, At first they had to deal with this crazy nut job of a governor who wants to institute martial law based on her executive orders. But then on top of that, you've got two dams that failed that just flooded four counties. I mean, underwater.
Maybe we could help with like a fundraiser for some of them families.
It's probably all Trump's
Let's find
fault.
a nonprofit. Let's find a nonprofit up there that deals in housing people and see if we can.
It's definitely going to be something that's going to need it. And they said that actually last night at around midnight, it was going to crest at the highest level it's ever been recorded at 39 feet. And like the highest that's ever been recorded before when it broke down was 35.
So why is it breaking, though? I mean, so much rain or what?
Well, the thing is, and this is where it comes into play. In Michigan, they were actually part of the dam or the reservoir that they have was actually cited in 2018 was not being up to code.
Kind of like New Orleans, though, with
2
the levee.
years.
New
Right,
Orleans
they
and
knew.
the levee. Remember they caught that mayor that he stole a lot of money from.
They knew, but there's never $1 million home on the south side of the dam. So that's the case with all of them.
Well, you look at for instance, when you kind of gain perspective of that when you look at Lake Okeechobee and the renovations they're doing to the dike, that encompass or encases the lake. The reason why they're doing that is because they're afraid of a dike failure, and you've got all those homes in South Bay area.
Right.
Now, this is the funny thing when you start digging into it is that the state of Florida actually purchased that land back from Big Sugar in that area. They bought up a lot of it as part of the Glades Restoration Act. So, but then what happened was that the state of Florida turned around and released it back to Big Sugar after they bought it. So, yeah,
Is that Senator Scott?
So it's
Is
not
that Senator Scott?
So it's not only Democratic states.
Okay.
Right?
See, I know.
Right?
And you know what? We profess that, though, too. I think that we call out both sides.
Yeah.
Okay, some of my posts are...
Who you calling we?
Well, okay, not you.
Because you're
but
not
me and
including
TJ.
yourself.
TJ, you help me out all the time, don't you?
Yeah, well,
TJ, I might believe you. Definitely not. But we're talking about posts. Let's jump right into those. This week's picks. Let's see, Sherry, chime in there. Can
I
you look
can't-
at that, or you need?
I can't see past Foshin's big head.
Right.
There
At
we
least he's
go.
got something big.
Top one. Who thinks that the blue states should not receive stimulus if it's not for coronavirus only? Should taxpayers have to help? Bail out states like California, New York, Illinois, Michigan, New Jersey? What do you think, folks? Chime in and post your opinions on the site.
Right. So I got a comment here from Peggy. It says any state in debt and mishandling the state budget in dollars will mishandle new bailout money also. What makes anyone think they will do anything different with additional taxpayer dollars? Hell no to sanctuary cities, illegal immigrants,
Oh,
mail-in ballots, socialized medicine, and liberal incompetence. Here's
You know, hold
what
on.
is
I
it?
like that one though. I really like
no,
that one.
I like it. I just it popped up the whole sanctuary city thing. I have not noticed that catchphrase or that word really in our platform till we talked about it.
Last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a while back we talked about it. I mean, this is when we first got started going months and months back. But one of the big things that you'll notice is what Governor Newsom did with some of the stimulus money about getting, which is a sanctuary city, of course, in LA, but giving money to illegal immigrants, stimulus money, and per person or per family. But then turn around and say that we're going to run out of funding for the VA hospital
Right.
that's there. So the VA, so the veterans who fought for this country, and people got to understand, the guys that go to the VA, most of them are they're elderly, for the most part. Okay, so they rely on the VA. So we're going to shut down a VA where these guys have paid an unsurmountable price, through the years, and we're going to fund people who are illegal immigrants. To me, that is probably the biggest kick in the teeth for somebody who's a vet.
Dude, and it would get worse. Actually, us as veterans, we met the insurance requirement based upon having the VA available to us, right? So I didn't have to meet that quota, or we would have had to gone and buy health insurance. At least for me, we have it for the kids, and that's a little bit easier actually on the purse. But yeah, that would have started a whole world of issues. And most of the guys that go there, they're not even only old, but they're really screwed up. Like, I don't even like doing my yearly check. I hate walking in there.
Yeah, and some I'm thankful for the Veterans Choice, because so you don't have to go to the VA and the government will pick up the tab. But when you look at veterans care has always been a problem, as far as the quality of health care that you have at the hospitals. And for a while they were inundated, especially after the Gulf and Afghanistan wars and everything. And it really kind of
But you also got to think that we had a 30-year war so far, or almost a 20-year war, right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. Well, how many people are coming back, half arms and stuff like that, which is horrible. And we've been there almost 20-something years. And I mean, like you said, it didn't get inundated, like you said, because.
Well, we were involved in wars that we should never been a part of.
Right.
That's the problem.
Well, no, and see, that's what I'm saying. I understand that, but they should always take care of those veterans.
If you look at the Middle East conflict.
Oh, let's not even get into this. This is like a whole new episode.
Yeah, but just real quick, and this is this is the last thing I'll say about it. When you look at the Middle East conflict, to me, it is the longest, or actually the most prolonged Vietnam type scenario. It was Vietnam stretched over 20 years.
Yeah,
is what it is. We had no business being in there.
But do you think we were fighting for oil over there?
Absolutely.
I thought the conversation was going to stop right there.
Okay,
he had the
I'm
last
sorry.
word, Foshin.
I'm sorry.
Last word. All right, we're gonna jump over. Yvonne, not everybody in blue states are blue. A lot of us are Trump fans, like me. Who's got their live going? Somebody cut their live. You sound great. Sherry's over here trying to listen on the phone to make sure she sounds.
I was totally not listening to us on the phone. I was sending it to some people who had requested requested
Oh.
it. Thank you very much.
Turn the mic down. What is going on over here with you guys and your phones?
Look, I had a little bit of a technical
Look,
difficulty.
when we show up to the show, treat it like church. Turn it off.
I was about to say, you said treat it like church. Depending on what church you went to, I'm not a choir boy, and I don't intend to be one.
I wasn't even allowed to take anything in my church.
All right, Foshin, give me Todd. Todd is,
Todd Bigelow?
yeah.
He says, fuck the lib, the terrorist criminal idiots. They will only give to illegals
It's terrible language.
for their voted, which is illegal. They don't seem to get what the word means. If we break the so-called lib bull crap laws, we'll go to jail, but libs don't. What the F?
So I'm not real great at grammar, but I'm going to point out that
We need the post.
in the sentence, you can't say they don't seem to get what the word means, and you misspell the word that you want them to understand.
I was trying to follow along
I was
with
waiting for the
that. Like,
buzzer. I don't think
that
we
was
did.
like, and Todd, love you, buddy, but that was like trying to read a Quentin Tarantino movie without the visual effects. Just-
I was like, what? What is that?
But you know what? He shortened the word, though.
He
It's
did
E,
get me. He
illegal.
did get me. So when I was prepping this slide, I'm sitting here sounding that word out. Like, what word is this? I'm sitting here sounding it out. Oh, he means illegals. I get it now. At least he didn't call him stupid.
yeah, but it definitely, nobody's, not gonna call anybody stupid. I would refer to him as a Democrat.
Yeah, but he's using texting right.
But Todd, I know you're not a Democrat, so I'm not going to do that to you, buddy. I'm not going to go down that road for you. When you look at any sanctuary city, and I pointed this out when we first talked about this months ago, when the whole COVID thing started, and I said, look, I said, isn't it funny that the hardest hit areas and the outbreaks and the shortage of PPE and everything is all in areas that are sanctuary cities and Democratic run
Yeah.
local governments. And it's shocking to see that when you look at and start comparing numbers. All right, state of New York, 19.5 million people. State of Florida, 22.5 million people. 43,000 infected in the state of Florida, 4,200 deaths. New York is 287,000 infected with.
I stopped looking at their numbers.
Yeah, it came to a point where you couldn't track it anymore. Now you've got the governor of New Jersey who wants to shut the whole state down until there's a vaccine.
Right. Nobody go anywhere.
It's okay for us to take sick elderly people and put them back into the nursing home with COVID-19, but nobody go to your house till we have a vaccine.
But that's what Como did. I mean, look how
No, I'm not
so
talking
many
about Como.
people got. Oh, I know, but Como
No,
did
he's
the
talking
same
about in New
thing.
Jersey. Dude, New Jersey is getting. New Jersey is. In an essence, it's worse than Michigan. At least she's opening back up. This
She
guy is
has
talking
no
about
choice,
locking.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, people are revolting, they're having their peaceful
protest.
protest, but those people are like, hell no, this ain't happening no more, which is good. It's good that people are finally standing up and saying no more to the governments.
Right.
You
I mean,
think,
to the governors. I'm sorry, no, I'm not saying the governors, but
you think Governor Whitmer blew up the dam to take attention off herself?
Ooh.
Because
the car dealerships didn't work. Like, what? Who comes out with? Oh, I'm going to open up car dealerships.
Because we all have money to go buy a car since we haven't worked in 3
Right.
months.
Right. And I can't even go anywhere. Who buys a brand new car that don't have nowhere to go?
But, hey,
Unless you're 16.
gas prices are starting to go back up, aren't they?
Oh,
Did
yeah,
you
because
notice
they're
that?
opening back
Hey,
up.
look, man, I just bought a boat. I don't want to hear about gas prices going up. They need to come back down.
Golly, right?
And you know what? And I feel sorry for you. I really do.
Not me. He bought the shit.
I was trying to be a smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
TJ, give me Elaine's there. Elaine Craig.
Elaine Craig, no money for corruption governors to waste on their pet illegals and sanctuary cities.
Oh my.
Oh, and feeding Muslims.
And feeding Muslims.
Good
Some
Lord.
of these comments, folks.
She called illegals pets and
Terrible.
said feeding Muslims. Like
Terrible.
they have pets and they visit the zoo.
Yeah, but maybe she's from an older generation. where they just
Obviously,
don't
with the
sit
name
Not
Elaine.
acceptable.
Huh?
It's not acceptable
Who-
at any generation.
there.
What?
People
Who?
live
Well,
differently.
now this thing. Now, I don't.
Who
You know-
after 1960 names their kid Elaine?
I don't know.
We know she's from an older generation.
Well, I understand that, but names are like clogs. They come back every 20 years.
Older people express themselves totally different.
But,
'cause that's the way they were raised.
When you
up.
look at what Elaine put, and this is what I'm going to say. All right, so when she talks about no money for the corrupted governors to waste on their pet illegals and sanctuary, now, and this is where things can be taken out of context that are written in text versus the way somebody tries to verbally express it.
Right.
So when you look at it, and you look at some of these Democratic senators and governors, to them, the illegals are a pet project for them. It is, in a sense, their little pet program. They want to bring them in, and they want to coddle them, and they want to take care of them.
They won't vote.
Exactly. Now, and the whole thing of and feeding the Muslims, that I don't. That's a little off track there, Elaine. Because this is the thing. It's not just feeding Muslim. It's feeding everybody, and it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish. If somebody now this is one thing I will say. If you're feeding illegal immigrants, we have to take care of the people that are here. I totally agree with it.
True.
But I don't think that we should be taking care of illegals versus our own homeless. If we've got money to feed illegals, why don't we have the money to feed the homeless? Why aren't we taking that and trying to take care of the people that have problems that have put them into homelessness anyways? I've seen a very large number now, and I drive over to Fort Myers from Cape Coral every day. And I'm seeing a lot more homeless people on the streets, begging at the corners. I mean, it's almost like they're unionizing now. When you look at them, there's one on each corner. So, I mean, they're hitting you 4 ways from Sunday.
Even here in the Cape, as we know the city, my son, they have a 15% underfed, underprivileged kids right here in Cape Coral.
And you wonder, and why is that? And one of the cool things that I don't know if everybody notices, but 7-Eleven during the COVID-19, 7-Eleven just announced, and please do not run to the 7-Eleven and tell them you heard this from me and that I said it was okay, because I have no affiliation with them.
Now I'm nervous.
But they're doing a thing where a child can come in and get a piece of fruit and a 7-Eleven made sandwich and a drink for free, because the parents who aren't working, kids that are out of school,
and McDonald's and Burger King couldn't.
Yeah, kidding, right?
So hold on, I'm just looking at this screen here, and I see Bonnie put a President
Trump yeah. So
Please
we'll move on.
I just want to look at that.
That
real quick.
was crazy.
I don't know. I could see Biden being the same way. You know what I mean?
Okay. So we're gonna call out you guys. Copy Bonnie's meme here with Biden, and let's get it up on the page.
I actually thought if it weren't for the hair, I would have swore it was Biden anyways.
Seriously,
It looks like him.
Oh, we have some characters, huh?
So let's highlight here. Somebody jump in on DJs and Kens, and let's.
All right. Washington State is a blue state. It's not my fault. The governor that got elected is a complete moron. Okay. And why should I and other people that don't agree with them have to suffer?
I believe I 100% agree.
No,
with that.
I
Absolutely. Fair question, yeah.
And this is the thing, DJ Ray. You shouldn't have to put up with it. Yes, I feel bad for you that you have an idiotic governor and local government. 2, I blame it on Starbucks. Hey, look, man.
This goes back and forth every election cycle. There's always going to be, it does. It goes back and forth.
That is actually our next, yeah.
It does. But the thing is, how do we get to a point where, we see what's going on? There's definitely things that we all agree on that should be better. All of us agree, whether you're Democrat, Republican, centrist, we all agree that there is middle ground for us to get to. The only thing is that we become so defensive of our end of the spectrum that we don't allow us to. We're blinded by the center, but for the same people to reelect Nancy Pelosi, how many times? I mean,
what, since 1991 or 2 or something? Isn't that? I can't remember.
Well,
she's been in there for.
There's an ember in California right now. I won't call it a spark. It's an ember, because they just flipped a Democratic seat into a Republican seat.
Yeah. Well, I saw that, and that was mail-in votes too.
Yep. And why do you think Trump backed out on the mail-in vote thing recently? Now he's like, well, maybe mail-in votes not so bad.
Let me hold on for a sec. Do you trust any Democratic city to be able to count votes? Iowa,
I don't trust anybody to
Wisconsin,
count the vote.
Michigan.
I was going to say I agree.
I don't trust any one person because we are all corruptible. Every last one of us.
That is
Corey's, I agree. Right
100%.
I think that you'll find it on both sides.
Right.
If you dig deep enough.
I mean, Florida did it, right? Isn't that what
Oh,
happened
absolutely.
with Bush's cousin or whoever?
You talking about when George W. won
Yeah.
the hanging Chad? No, that was they were counting ballots, but that was on a different type of machine. Yeah.
All right. Let's we'll have TJ take.
All right. So you talking about on the post?
Yeah.
Okay. Who here believes that no matter what president Trump does, great, the Democrats and media will try and shame Trump voters? Does anyone really care, or does everyone just laugh at their hypocrisies?
All right, I posted that one, and I think I've upset a couple people from Cape Coral Politics in a couple other areas.
Uh-huh.
No, I think it's more than that actually. And so to Sherry's point, I actually decided to opt maybe. I'm sorry.
You okay?
You
I got
good?
COVID, man.
You
Oh.
good?
Go ahead.
Social distancing over here.
We're 5 feet apart.
Beth said it's just sad and pathetic that so many are resorting to attacking others for a difference of opinion / views that used to be positive and people could have conversations without all of the hate. Now people are being attacked for it. No, I don't find it funny, just pathetic and sad. Our country needs unity and not division. So just for a laughing point, I only want to point out, Beth, don't forget, they used to prevent me from drinking from the same water fountain as you.
Dun dun dun.
Right. The division is I would argue actually that is politicized as it is now, or that it's out front, that as a culture, America has drastically changed. I mean, come on. How long have Jews been in Israel and they still don't want to let anybody in? Australia is a land of thieves and criminals, and they don't let anybody in. Like China, Japan, like we could go down all of these nations that actually have an older history than us,
Right.
and they still haven't achieved what they have today. Like I'm in a mixed marriage, and nobody can stop me.
Well, and you look at what most people don't realize. I mean, when you look at, for instance, South Africa and how it is over there, okay, and how long it's taken for it to actually start making steps forward. You know, when we talk about, a lot of people like talk about, you know, the racism in the United States, racist. It's getting to the point to where it's almost like the boy that cried wolf. Because so many people, I swear to
But it's a joke now, though. If somebody really calls you racist on Facebook, you're sitting there and you kind of laugh about it because you know that you have a lot of other friends, and those people don't even know who you are, but they can just hurl that out there. And that's what liberals did that was so good about doing that and shaming. That's how they shamed a lot of people. That's how you can control.
And here you go with more division, calling liberals. Point it out to the liberals.
Well, that's where it started, though.
There's bigots on every side,
absolutely,
especially
absolutely.
inside of the Republican Party.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm not even going to say that, but everybody has had racism in their hearts before. Honestly, everybody's thought a different thing about somebody different. But the thing is, nobody just wants to admit to it. I mean, if you just admitted to it and say, yeah, I said this a long time ago, it's over with, I don't do it no more, I have never done it again, it's over with. It's like, come on, people, we got to quit. We got to quit. We got to quit driving.
No matter what you do, I don't care. As free of a people as we are, dating back to the beginning of time, you had tribes. Okay, you had different factions of different parts of countries that were totally, separated by their culture, and one hated the other. So, and how many other nations have enslaved people over the thousands of years? So, you're always going to have some type of divide. It's what we can agree on that makes us better people. It's about where we can come together.
The collective process. Like, I can hate you, but as long as we can work together and get the house built, if that's the product and that's what we're ultimately coming together to do, I don't necessarily have to agree in the type of hammer you use or the nail that you drive. It's all right. Let's get the house built.
Yep, and that's exactly it. And it's got to start. And I tell you this, the worst part about it is when you look at where it all starts nowadays, it's the upbringing of our children. It's how they're being raised, how they're being taught.
But let me ask you this, though, just out of curiosity. You're a woman. So how do
Racist.
Hold on. You're
Sexist.
Right.
but you're a divorced mom, and you live
Oh
out
my
there.
gosh, more judgment. Wow.
Hold on for God Almighty. Nobody's going to hear this out.
Go ahead.
The
what do
air
you
is
know?
You're a
thick.
divorced mom living with 2 kids, raising them, and doing a really great job. I mean, we've
Oh, that was supposed to be a compliment.
Thanks.
But with the feminism, do you think feminism has gone too long? I mean, you know what I mean with like pushing out.
I think it's like a rubber band.
Do you think?
Well, you got this is the thing.
I don't elaborate on that. What's the rubber band analogy?
I've seen a lot of people grasp onto that idea of feminism and stretch it, and then, like many things, it needs to snap back a little bit when things start to just go a little bit too far in the thought process. I'm still an old-fashioned lady. My moral compass doesn't necessarily agree with the lifestyle that I'm living and how I was brought up, but I appreciate the compliment, Foch, and thank you very much for letting me know you think I'm doing a good job.
I have respect
he
for
let
you.
the world know.
Yeah.
I have respect for this
That you're
lady,
doing a
and
good
this lady
job.
is an awesome person. But I'm just saying,
What?
we talked about racism, and then like you got
might-
feminism. You got feminism.
You might want to
say-
lead with that first. Hey, I think you're an awesome person. You're doing a great job with your kids.
You could have just
So-
said you're a great mom.
Sometimes it's better to lead with, it's kind of like in my job. I tell everybody what's right with their car first before I hit them at the end and be like, and by the way, this is broken. It's going to cost you this much.
Right. It's called honey before the hatchet.
Yeah.
That's
I think if you collectively put all of these comments together from y'all today, I would simplify it to that we may need to look for some other terms to utilize in our vocabulary for what words in the past had previously meant.
Oh. That is great insight. If these mics didn't cost so much, we would drop one for you.
Thank you, babe. Appreciate it.
It doesn't have that drop the mic emoji.
Going back to
that
who
on
was
later.
that though? Was that Beth that had left that comment?
Yeah,
on the
yeah, it was
website?
Beth.
Yeah,
So-
so Beth, I know a lot of people don't come in or they might not listen live, but they go back and we have tremendous views after the podcast. And I want to let you know if you listen that I'm going to be talking along the lines of what your comment said a little bit later.
Right. So I kind of stuck with those same comments. You can go ahead and pick up Jim, and then somebody pick up Hassan.
Mr. Jim Rosa. It's always been that way. It was almost 40 years ago when they called Walter Cronkite the most trusted man in America, and people believed it.
Yeah, that's actually pretty
Hey,
true.
you know what? That's spot on, and this is where I'm going to take a jab at the mainstream media. Did you see who they just hired back on to run late night news?
No, I don't watch late night news.
You remember the journalist who said that he was involved in a helicopter crash in a firefight in Afghanistan?
Oh.
And then they came back out and said, "Yeah, none of that was true. He was
Brian
never
Williams.
involved in
Brian
it."
Williams.
Brian Williams.
Brian
Brian Williams
Williams
is now doing the 12 o'clock news on CNN or MSNBC. They hired him.
No
I'm like,
way.
That's the perfect place for him to be, though. I mean, it's like a joke of a news network.
but I like, that's like saying, when you hire somebody like that who's been proven to lie,
Right.
to gain headlines, that would be like hiring. It'd be like hiring an executioner to execute himself. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Right.
the job's not going to get done. It's not going to get done properly. When we talk about the bias in the mainstream media, and of course this can go on for days. We could talk about bias in the mainstream media for months on out because thankfully for us they give us plenty of subject to talk about. But when you have to depend on somebody to get the proper information, facts. And that's the thing is, where does anybody go to get facts? And how do you know that the fact checkers aren't biased?
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, everybody brings their own facts, and everybody's trying to disqualify the other, and it really goes nowhere, does it? I mean, honestly. It
So
doesn't.
really the best advice that I guess the best advice I could give somebody that was given to me actually came through conversation with my wife. And she pointed out, look, stop trying to look at facts, look at the information, and come up with your own perspective by what you see. because no matter what, it doesn't matter. You could compare an identical education between Harvard and Yale, and those people are going to be drastically different in their performance, even though they still all went through the same, because they're going to operate based upon their perspective. So if we start voting and judging our politicians from a local level up from our perspective, because my city government should clearly understand my perspective.
But how many people go out there and vote? They just vote.
Well, we've already talked. Right, we've already talked about the whole party line thing.
No, and I understand that, but it's just crazy that people need to really start looking at who they're voting for and get the right people in there. I mean, just like a lot of people voted just because of the D or the R, and we still get crappy, congressmen or whatever, representatives or whatever.
Can I add to that just a moment, though, Foshin? It's not just about looking at somebody and voting for them for who they are. I'd like to add that I think we should vote for people based on the job they will do, not based on something that was said 30 years ago or who they were friends with prior, or based on anything other than what is that person going to do while they're doing their job, and can they do it well?
Let's jump to some comments. First, I want to thank everybody for chiming in, and I will at least shoot you out by name. But Angela Newton said facts are facts, anything else is opinion. And Tony Benedict chimed in and said facts don't change from one person to the next. It's the interpretations of those facts that vary. We at least at my house, right, we 100% agree in that. But I think people's perspective matters, because no matter what facts, if we're talking about government or policy, things like that, you're literally talking about living, breathing people. So that in itself cannot be black and white. But for something to, in essence, be a fact or like a scientific law, it has to be that or it's not.
But let me ask you this, just out of curiosity. You got both sides blasting each other, right? You got the left blasting the right blasting the left. And then you got the news agencies. So a lot of people use like the news agencies to sit there and press their facts, right? Now, how many people ever sit back and they kind of look at both sides, and then you try to analyze for in the middle, because somewhere there is a middle ground every once in a while. There is a middle ground every once in a while. You just got to find it. And the truth is always in the middle right there, because both sides are blabbing about the same thing, but they're going at it from a different thing. But if you look at it in the middle, because you can always find truth in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
I mean, I always sit back and I'll analyze. You want to sit there and you want to analyze it and think about all the news stories that you've heard on all sides. And always, if you look at it right, there's a truth right there in the middle. But everybody doesn't look; they're always looking at. I don't know. That's just the way I am. I'm sorry.
Foshin, hit Hassan's, because I think it's perfect for you, and then I'm gonna jump to these other commenters.
All right, nothing new. Conservatives did the same for Democratic presidents. Absolutely. Everybody plays politics, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I really don't. I just think more people ought to analyze a lot of the people that are running. I mean, if you're in that state,
pay attention to who's talking.
Huh?
Pay attention to who's
talking, right?
As much as what they're saying.
Listen, but the one thing Hassan says, nothing new. Conservatives did the same for Democratic presidents. That I disagree with, because when was the last time that the budget was balanced for the United States government?
I know, but you're going to bring up one thing. In general, Republicans did not let Obama sleep a peaceful night. Not a single night.
I don't. Well, hold on. I don't remember seeing him dragged
I'm
through
not saying he
an
deserved
impeachment.
it.
I don't see him being dragged through investigation after investigation. I didn't see his campaign being spied on by the outgoing president.
I mean, the dude
in.
did have to present a birth certificate. That's pretty.
That should be. But come on, you're running for president.
Get out of here.
And by the way, that birth certificate is still in question. Ain't nobody actually seen that yet. I still don't know where that one was printed out. But I mean, when you really go back to it, when you look at the last time that the budget was actually balanced, was Newt Gingrich when he was Speaker of the House. And that was the first time that the Republicans won the House in like 20 years. And he worked side by side with Clinton. Even though What happened
Yeah,
with
they
Clinton?
did-
Hey,
right.
Clinton, they still work together to balance the budget and help the country.
Yeah, but he put Clinton in a box because they also had the Senate too. If you remember, while they balanced the budget, and then after they lost, when they all went through the impeachment proceedings against.
All right, let's jump on one. Thank you, Melissa. Elizabeth is in. Angela, we shared her. RC Ike, he's going to be coming to us later on in a phone call. You guys don't want to miss that. He's in. Angela Newton, Tony Benedict, Melissa. They're still. Let's about the truth part. Let's see. Melissa said facts are based upon perspective thought unless it's science. Elizabeth said yes, there are 3 sides to every story. Angela, we've gotten away from facts and truth. Today's society is on feelings. That is the problem. We react, we don't respond. And Melissa said exactly.
Great comment.
Yeah, that is pretty. So let's go. Richard Snook Jr. He said, "What greatness has Trump done? I give credit where credit is due, but I haven't seen one from him." E. Lane said, "Now, this has got to be my favorite comment from this entire post, and I think this should really ring home for everybody. Now is the time to encourage people to get out there and vote. Rather
right.
hear the voices of live Americans than dead ones and Russian hackers. Either way, it all still comes down to vote. Vote on your city. Vote. I mean, all the way up to a judge, right? We can see it now where judges' roles really become important with these state closures and lockdowns and maybe over-policing of the people. Judges are the ones that are stepping up and saying, yeah, no, governor.
You can't do
You
that.
know, it's not going to
Can't
happen.
do it.
So I hope that renews the importance that some people have in what their local government is there to achieve.
One thing I want to say real
Yeah.
quick with Mr. Richard Snook Jr. What greatness has Trump done? I'll give credit
Here we
where
go.
credit is
Here we
due,
go.
but I haven't seen one from him. So, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this just for Richard Snook. I'm going to give him the one reason. Okay? I'm going to give him one thing they can go at. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm
I'm
listening.
holding on to my chair.
Criminal justice reform.
Ooh. He did put it in the forefront. I'll actually go so far as to even say he continued to build a very, very strong economy, lowest unemployment. I really hate that they separate the black unemployment from regular unemployment. All of those categories need
But who does
to
that?
come to an end.
But who does that?
But
Who
What do you mean? No,
categorizes-
everybody does it. Trump touted that he has the lowest African American unemployment
and
rate
over and over
in the
he
last
does.
50 years. So don't even start, folks.
No, it's true. But that's because, but you got to look at the statistics and the way that going back to the civil rights movement, that's when a lot of this started being tracked. Okay, so when you started tracking about unemployment and benefits and so on and so forth, it was tracked. I mean, that's why you look at it when you fill out for a job. What do you put? Black, white, Hispanic, non-Asian. So
Yeah,
that-
but we shouldn't even be doing that.
well,
That shit
it's
doesn't
now,
even
but
make
hold
any
on
now,
for a sec.
only
You know-
recently. Hold on, only recently through E-Verify, when you do that, there is a tab where you have to put that you do not have to answer. But when you answer the census, what does it ask you?
Right, and those type census, I don't necessarily think I have an issue with that. One, because people can decide to fill out a census. That's the first and foremost. I have complete, utter choice to fill it out without judgment. Nobody comes back around. When you're looking at an employer, if I come to get a job from you, TJ, and I don't want to mark black or mixed race,
That's right.
right? Or I want to mark mixed race. Let's put it that
well,
way, because
but
I'll correct people all the time. As soon as people, you're black, or they say something about me being black, I tell them, no, I'm actually mixed. My mother is white, because I have to accept both sides of that. I do my mom.
And I'm with that 100%. And if that's the route that we go, then how do we institute affirmative action that's being instituted all over the
But
country?
why do we bring that up as an issue in the first place? And don't say just because President Trump brings it up, because President Trump has been told the country that he's a racist person, and these people are like, enough is enough. He's helping out the African American community. When's the last time the Democrats have done that for their people? Except for every 4 years when they're trying to go get votes from the. Right or wrong.
So
Right-
I'll
right
chime
or
in.
wrong.
I'll chime in on this, and this actually
All
why
right, you take
I
it,
just
Corey.
can't do the I'm gonna vote Democrat because I'm quote unquote black or a minority, because it's 100% true. There's nothing that you've actually done for me to benefit me, and even greater than that, I would rather you give me the opportunity to do it my fucking self.
Thank you very much. See, and that's what people. That's what the spirit of America's all
Sorry
It's
for
about.
the
F-bomb.
land of opportunity. It's it's podcast.
Right.
We can F-bomb if we want.
Right, like
That's like the only three things you're guaranteed is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
That's
And
what
pay-
this
and
country
don't
was
forget to
founded.
pay
Right.
taxes. And don't forget to
well,
pay
yeah,
taxes.
taxes. You're gonna pay taxes. You know, and
but
I
that's
think,
still unconstitutional. We just allow it to
I
happen.
believe that.
Well, when you have taxation without representation, and your representation isn't really representing you at all, that kind of defeats the purpose of that part of the Constitution.
Booyah.
But the one person I think that I've seen that has put this especially with the whole racial thing and voting into perspective, and I love her to death, is Candace Owens. If you've ever watched any of Candace Owens' speeches,
I am a huge fan.
Whoa.
I do like her. I think
Go
that
ahead,
she
finish,
puts
finish.
things in perspective, and I think that she is more middle of the road than people realize. I really do.
But you know the other one from Fox News that does the noontime show, Catherine Harris, I think that's her name. One of the most beautiful ladies on there, and she does the afternoon show on the couch with the ladies. She does her Harris Faulkner. That's her name. I am so sorry. I did not mean Harris Faulkner.
So
She is a very, very great speaker if you just sit there and listen to her. Candace Owens, another one. And you know, the one that nobody talks about is Stacey Dash. You know, she turned She turned to a Republican or a conservative, and the next thing you know, a lot of people ostracized her from. And why?
Yeah, well, for me, it's more about, are they speaking their truth? It's not necessarily about, are they going to make everybody happy? You know that nobody's going to make everyone happy or be able to have an opinion that is agreeable with everyone, even as middle of the road as I am. But I do appreciate people who will speak their truth as they see it.
So we got Tony. He says, for a racist, Trump has done an awful lot for the minorities. Either he isn't racist or he's the worst one ever. So hear this. This is crazy. Melissa says, they asked on my 8-year-old's medical paperwork his sexual orientation.
yes, they're allowing them
That
to.
is insane.
Wow.
There's a thing called Twitch online.
Welcome
I
to the
don't-
20th century there, Corey. Just think about that. That's sorry.
There's a thing called Twitch that is I guess a liberal forum or whatever it is. And a coworker of mine pointed out the other day that the person that they
Twitch?
put Twitch, I think it's called Twitch. And it's a very liberal
Is that what
page.
happens? Like when Trump speaks, they get a Twitch?
No. Hold on.
That's
I
right.
swear to you,
I've seen it.
I swear to you, if you have the chance, anybody out there, you've got to watch this. They chose somebody to be an admin and basically watch over the posts and check for what's right and what's wrong. The person is a transgender male who's going through the change, who self-identifies hold on, gets better, who self-identifies as a deer.
As a deer.
As a deer. And actually does a deergasm on TV with somebody petting its head. And this is the person who's in charge of watching the comments and posts that come across a liberal forum and gets to make the decision on whether or not that post was correct.
Wow. They're the rule.
They're the rule.
They're
The person, and he even
they
talks
set
about.
the standard.
I don't even know. I can't say it. He. She.
Yeah.
You
I
self-identify
get
as
the
a
same
deer.
way. I get confused.
I'm like, what are you supposed to do there? Hey, if you want to self-identify as a deer and go out and eat grass in the yard, and he literally does this. He even shows you how he does it. I was rolling on the floor.
But you don't think he's just trying to get attention?
No, he's probably really that crazy.
Okay.
No, he's probably really that nuts.
They
you
get a
think he's on
stage.
some psychotropic drug somewhere?
They get
I
a
mean,
stage now, so it's like I'm really happy that majority. I should say the majority of minorities that we hear from aren't like jumping on this bandwagon. I actually had an argument with another guy who he's gay, and he's like, we fought the same struggles your people did. Hold on a minute. One, my dad didn't really fight a struggle except integration into school. He actually did go through that. but I don't never remember hearing on the news you guys lynched, hung, your women raped, which you wouldn't care about anyway, but I'm just saying.
And as far as the whipping part, they might enjoy that. You know, that might be
Right.
something. But and again, that's casting judgment on people. Because I'll say this right out. I've got one of my cousins is gay, and his boyfriend love him to death. I mean, those guys come over, and we have the best time together. But my thing is this: he would never say, "Oh, he looks gay. Oh, he looks gay." You would never see that about him because they're not flamboyant.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're not putting it out there. It's nobody's business but
Right.
theirs.
It's not about
and
the
this
world.
thing, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. But to say that the gays went through the same struggle or LGBT, I always get that. Yeah,
TQ.
QZ.
yeah.
Hey, quick question. How do we
And
get
me.
onto this?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about discrimination
Who
and we're talking about
knows? Oh, yeah.
you know, reform. But anyways, Richard Snook Jr. Yes, the
Tony's hilarious.
so
Hold on,
yeah,
go.
Richard.
Finish it up.
Yeah. So the reform for incarcerated people was definitely one of the great things that Mr. Trump has done for this
Yeah.
nation.
Foshin to you, Daniela said Candace Owens has been on fire lately. Tony Benedict said, does this quote unquote deer self isolate during hunting season?
It doesn't. Tony, it doesn't
guys-
appear so if you watch the video.
But do you think he runs out the
I
woods
think
doing
that
this
was
number in front
great.
of hunters?
Well, my thing is,
I
and
really
I'm not-
wish I had that comment, Tony.
if it was deer season and you shot him, would it be illegal?
All right.
Ooh.
Because he self-identifies as a deer.
We are not inciting hate crime.
Jerry, what do you think?
Not at all.
I have no comment for you fellas right now.
Oh, this is great. So we're gonna move in it. We're gonna move in it. Here's
You know
Ron
you're all
Jeremy.
getting a look, right? They're getting the side eye glance from me.
There's my guy. I don't believe you. So we're gonna jump in. Foshin, take it away.
All right, so the Democrats are asking for an investigation of the DOJ's decision to drop Flynn's case. I'm saying I think the Democrats have lost their freaking mind. I'm sorry, but it's like, come on. We've had investigation after investigation after investigation after investigation after investigation. Give it up. I mean, seriously. Trump has made y'all look horrible. How many times has Trump made them look stupid and horrible? And the people out there, his poll numbers just keep going up. It's just like before he got reelected or before he got elected in the
They're
first
kind of
place.
low right now.
Huh?
His numbers are kind of low. Right
You know
now.
what? I don't trust any of these polls.
Now you don't trust it.
No. Do
You
trust,
just cited
do you
the
trust-
polls, but you cited them.
No, I cited the polls of they're saying that he was never going to win in the first place.
Oh.
And I think the news people, they put that stuff out there because they're trying to sit there and beat Trump people down to say, hey, you don't need to go out and vote for this guy. This guy will never win.
But
It's just like the 2016 election.
But in that logic, you would want to tell me he's way up in the polls, so I wouldn't want to go out and vote because he's already
Right,
leading in the
that
polls.
Actually, right.
You know what I'm saying? That would make more sense. Now, this is the thing. I think yes that the mainstream media does play down the numbers, and if you look at some of the polls, and it depends. And look, this is the thing. These pollsters and these polls are done by people. They're human, and they're out in different areas. And where's the polling being done? You know, in my whole
I've
life,
always wondered that.
I've never been polled in my whole life.
Ever.
So show me the demographic of the
Right.
area where you went polling, so I could say, okay, well, based on that area, that makes sense.
Yeah, but if you look at the polling thing, they say 725 people, 1,000
Right.
people.
It's super low.
Oh yeah.
When CNN does it, it's always like, oh, we question, and they always say it like really fast.
Like, how much
Either-
does a pollster make?
Right, either in the beginning
We
or
polled-
in the end. We pulled 200 people at this mall, and like,
and they hate Trump.
right,
We pulled 7 from the mailroom downstairs. And out of those 7, 5 of them
right.
didn't like Trump.
I don't know a pollster. Do any of you know
No.
a person who's ever held that job?
I have no idea who. I never
Have
met
you
one.
ever been polled?
Never
before?
been
And
polled.
I'm on the internet all day,
Have you
and
been
I've
polled?
never seen anything pop up, even as effective as Google is, right? Because you can we could just randomly mention.
It's like
I don't know. Let's think of something. What's that bed called that folds up and folds down? That the Asians used to use? A futon?
Futon, baby.
yeah.
So now we said futon. One of us is gonna get it in our Facebook feed.
That already
We
happened.
talked about that the other day.
On Google, I was like, I said, Google,
talked
pull
about
up
this
Boat
earlier.
Trader.
Yeah, we did.
As soon as I pulled up Boat Trader on my Facebook feed, I started getting insure your boat with Progressive. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
Oh, it's been that drastic to
Really
where you
deep.
can go on there. Yeah, if you click on anything, that's how fast your information goes out on anything that you
Right.
click on. You know, so I just going through Google, I was like, Google, give me Boat Trader.
But let me ask you this.
Boom.
So it's just talking about this for a sec. With cell phones like they are, do you feel comfortable with the government and people tracking you?
You're already
It's over.
yeah,
it's
it's
done.
already there. That's the upsetting
Well, that's
part
what I'm
about
saying. It's like, isn't that scary to sit there
Yeah.
and think about
Hey,
it?
No,
listen.
Not for me.
I watch ID After Hours and Joe Kendall Homicide. One thing I have learned, if you're going to kill somebody, don't take your phone with you.
it. Yeah, yeah.
You
All right, Foshin, get back on your.
Yeah.
I'm sorry
Yeah,
about that.
okay.
We just drone on. Okay, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Richard Blumenthal sent a letter to the Justice Department. Inspector General Michael Horowitz and Jeffrey Ragsdale, the acting director of the Justice Department's Office of Professional Responsibility, asking for them to immediately open an investigation into a decision as well as the department pattern of politicizing the decision making. You got to laugh about that. I mean, seriously. For the last 4.5 years, or 3.5 years, 4 years, have Democrats and liberals been politicizing everything? TJ?
When you look at the facts, okay, so when we start talking about the Michael Flynn case, and we start talking about the unmasking of Michael Flynn, that information was leaked to the media as soon as
Right.
they found out who it was. So when you want to talk about, is this politicized, and you got people on certain sites, oh, they're not politicizing it. They've been politicizing it since 2016.
Thank you very
So
much.
and that's what it was. It was, get rid of Flynn to get to Trump. I think that was the long-term deal, and they just didn't think they were going to get caught. They thought they covered their tracks, and they didn't think it was going to go as far as it did. But the thing is when you press too hard for something, you got to know when to draw back. You're going to start a battle, you got to know where your line is that you got to draw back,
Right.
otherwise you're going to lose the war. And I think the Democrats misplayed their hand. They thought they were going to do it, and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And by the time they realized it, Mr. Shifty Schiff was so deep in it, he couldn't get out of it.
I can see that. Well, here's what the DOJ said in the court filing, that no longer believed it could make a case against former three-star Army General. And Flynn had initially entered an agreement in 2017 to cooperate with the DOJ and plead guilty. But he had since withdrawn the plea agreement and it is fighting the charges. I mean, but do you blame him? I mean,
No, I have one problem with this.
what's your
Normal
what's your
people
problem
don't
with
get to pull their pleas.
that? No. They'd be
You make a plea bargain,
You
you
can't-
get caught with weed or something in your pocket.
You can do it before sentencing. You can do it before
Really?
sentencing. Yep, you sure can. Because nothing is gone in until you are sentenced.
That is so true because the judge
What do you
has
mean?
to
Most
gavel
of the time,
down.
yeah, no. Most of the time, when you agree to a plea, like it's right there.
Yeah,
the
because-
plea agreement
because-
says
Well,
you're
when you look at it on a localized government level, when you enter your plea, you get sentenced the same day.
yeah. It's like it's all right then and there.
But but when you start talking about federal cases and you talking about cases where juries are involved or grand juries,
Right.
from the time they decide to agree on a plea agreement between the two parties, then they go before the judge for sentencing, and he enters his plea then. So him pleading to it and agreeing to the plea, and
Are two
actually
different things
and
right
him
there.
actually being sentenced. And the thing is this: there's no judge, there's no prosecuting attorney that wants to touch this, even on the federal side. Even the ones that were involved in it said, you know what? Now that all this has come to light, I don't want my name on it. Because how's that going to go for their careers? And did anybody look into the fact that, do you know who Flynn's first set of attorneys were?
Bill Clinton's people.
No, it was actually the former attorney general under President Barack Obama.
Oh,
He owns the firm that was representing General Flynn the first go around, and Flynn fired him.
conspiracy theory. No, maybe not.
So when you start thinking about this, there's a lot that goes down to it that people don't realize. A lot of people don't dig into the story and see where
Right,
it goes.
right.
You're reading the headlines, and that's where you're basing your opinion on headlines, and that's what we've got to get away from. The clickbait and the headlines that take us down rabbit holes. Really get into the story and learn what you're reading.
But how many people go down those rabbit holes, though?
Well, no, I mean that's not so. I'm saying people need to stop.
But how many people go
maybe-
down that rabbit hole, though?
Oh, well, people with intelligence. There's more of us out there. If we would get away from the 24-hour news media cycle and having our phones and the first thing that pops up, and that's and kind of segue into this. Every news outlet out there wants to be the first one on the story. And during a 24-hour news cycle, it's very key to be the first one out there with it.
Right.
The problem is they want to be the first one, so nothing's being validated, nothing's being fact checked, and what it's doing is it's hitting the mainstream media right there. And the first person that sees it, oh my God, this just came out, it must be true. And the next thing you know, they're going over here and telling this person. So that's what's wrong with it. The misinformation that's going out is because journalism itself has fallen
dead.
flat on its ass.
Yeah, it's no longer reliable.
It is dead. Because every one of those people are looking for their deep throat moment. All of them are out there. But the biggest difference is, I mean, if you look at Watergate, deep throat, I
know what
I
you're
could have
saying.
used a different analogy, but that one to me makes more sense.
But he didn't.
But I didn't. Because this is podcast, not radio. So, but when you look at the journalists and how they won, Pulitzers for what they did, but the biggest thing is those were investigative journalists. They went through and interviewed people all the way down the line, talking to the security guard's next door neighbor's cousin, who knew somebody to get down to the story. If it weren't for their investigative reporting during that Watergate scandal, you would have never have known. And when you think about it, what was Watergate? They broke in to the DNC to steal information on the opposition. Correct? That's what Watergate was. They got caught stealing information from the DNC, which was Nixon's opposition and going into the next election cycle.
But that shows you how bad that DNC is because the Russians hacked into their...
You're breaking right into my point.
I'm sorry about that.
Let me finish that up. So they break into the DNC to steal information on their opposition for an upcoming election. All right. They get found out. Nixon resigns because he was going to be impeached. So what's any different from the last administration going in and spying on the opposition campaign who's coming in and running for election? It's Watergate all over again. When you look at what happened to the Trump campaign, it's the same thing that happened to the DNC back in Watergate. Instead of breaking in physically, it was done through FISA warrants and it was done through wiretaps.
Yeah.
And through intelligence agencies that are not supposed to be spying on Americans in the first place.
That's right.
Angela Newton said the Dem drama is a circus sideshow to divert people, and they are winning that game. Tony said a Murphy bet about my futon thing. He's trying to remind me. Thank you for that, Tony. Melissa about the phone said, I swear they can read our minds. I'll think of something and get ads for it.
Yep.
Angela
Me
brought
too,
up
Melissa.
the latest iPhone update has a COVID tracker already built in. She's not really joking, actually. I saw
No, it's
it,
on mine. It's on mine.
yeah.
And so is the darn Samsung has the same thing.
Yeah, I saw the facilities, the data tracking facilities. They did a news story on it a while back, where they basically admitted, yeah, we are doing it, and here's where we're housing the information, and they're basically collecting tons of data.
Do you trust that?
Yeah,
on
everything.
all of everything.
Yeah.
Where we go, what we buy, what we order, who we order it from. They track it all.
They say we're putting it in this box over here. They just don't tell you that box is
Right.
full.
So we're using it
full
for
of
your
holes.
benefit, so that we can put in front of you things that matter to you.
Of course.
I mean, I miss the days of walking the store. I still do it. My wife would look at me crazy as all get out. I'll just mosey around. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go get, some ginger beer. I come back 5 other things all the time. All the time. She's like, oh, was that on sale? Oh, shit, I don't know.
When you
Was
look at I can tell you with the COVID thing, I haven't done nothing's really changed besides the fact of, for me at least, socially, except places that I go into that require us to have a mask. Then I put a mask on because I want to go out.
All right, so
I don't wear a mask.
we're going to move on to the next.
Let's jump into Sherry's topic here.
Sherry's topic, my opinion
Sherry's
piece.
topic.
The middle of the road person. I'm the voice of reason. amongst
Was that
these-
you, Satan?
Yeah, the voice of reason. Going back to the earlier comment from one of our fans, I want to talk about an opinion piece that I read in USA Today a few days ago. It is regarding the coronavirus, but it can be relatable to many other subjects as well. And this piece was written by Dublin Melano, and basically, the title of her piece is "Coronavirus Gives Us a Chance to Rebuild Society Together. Let's Not Blow It. If we truly love one another, we will work together to make the post-pandemic world a better place for all of us." And, I really like that because, we're here on a podcast and we're talking to a lot of people with different viewpoints. And I can tell you, even from my own personal social media and reading down the list of from my friends of various backgrounds and various opinion points and perspective, the one thing I have heard over and over and over from everybody is, why can't we all just get together and get along? Kind of the whole point of why you put this podcast together to begin with, is to bring a multitude of ideas and from different viewpoints without arguing, calling people names, giving people labels, and really just having a discussion. So right now, and I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit, with COVID-19, our frayed society has a choice. Do we continue to tear ourselves apart, or do we weave ourselves together, use this as an opportunity to become more tolerant, empathetic of a nation? This has not had the same effect on bringing people together like 9/11 did. Right? Remember, it just really hasn't. It's become very polarized, and it continues to bleed into our country's divide.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at with the whole COVID thing, I think a lot more people are more relaxed. I think a lot of people that sit at home, they're sitting there yapping at each other because they got nothing else to do, and they're pissed off at their mates because they're stuck home with them because they had lives before that. You know what I mean? Everybody has lives. They're busy. They come home from work, they sit there, and one will make dinner, and the other one will sit there and eat. You know what I mean? It's like that was their normal life. And then now they're stuck in there for 24/7. And what happens?
Well, I personally believe that the situation, it could have been handled a little better across the board and at more of a localized level. I'm certain we'll be questioning this decision and the decisions that were made for many, many years to come. The real question I want to ask is, it's not who it was at fault, but rather what can we do better next time? And what I'd like to ask all of you out there is, does any of you really think this is going to be the last pandemic? And if so, going forward, what would you do differently? So I'd like to hear some comments about that. We are the citizens. We were talking about voting earlier. We do hold the power. The power of the United States has always resided with its citizens. But with the national divide bigger than ever, who will be that hero? Who are we looking to? Who wants to put everything on the line, to get into politics, to make a change in this day and age, and during such a time when we are apparently so divided? And dare I say, during a most unempathetic time with our fellow citizens. So I wanted to find this out for myself. So I reached out. Did we happen to have RC call in? So I'd like to introduce you all. We're gonna call somebody here. His name is RC Ike, and RC Ike is actually a newly into politics. It happens to be from the area where I am from in upstate New York. I personally lived in 7 different states in the United States, and they all have been hit in various ways from this. But we need to make a change. And so, like I said, I wanted to reach out and I wanted to see what is going to drive somebody to get into politics in this day and age. And so I invited my friend RC Ike on the line with us. Do we have RC with us?
I am here.
Welcome, RC. I'm so happy that you decided to join us on today's podcast. I can't thank you enough, and I really appreciate you being with us today. I know that you've heard a lot of information was discussed around the table, shall we say, today. But I'm really curious about. First of all, thank you for what you're doing. I know it's got to be a difficult environment, but I'm curious to hear why you made that decision in today's environment. And I got to tell you, it takes some big cojones, for lack of a better word, I'd say, to get involved. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and share whatever you'd like and why you decided to get involved.
Okay, yeah. So Sherry, thanks for having me. known Sherry since probably like middle schoolish, I think, maybe 7th grade.
Oh, I bet you
or
have some
earlier.
stories.
Few stories. Now you keep quiet over there,
You
RC.
call us on after the show. We want to hear some of that stuff.
It's all good because I know Sherry would probably show up in the middle of the night and destroy me in some way or something. But no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I know where you live.
So
I like Ike.
I
I
know you
like
do.
this already. I like Ike.
no, so I'm running for New York State Assembly in the 124th district in New York. The Assembly is the lower house in the Senate there in New York. They kind of start the initiation. They initiate the bills, the legislation. The idea of any lower house, Congress, or the Assembly in New York State is kind of to be the closest representative to the people, and that's why they those two houses are supposed to start the legislation, because they're supposed to be the ones on the street meeting people, talking to them, hanging out in the grocery stores, restaurants, diners, whatever, during a large portion of their time, and meeting with them to find out what their concerns are, what's the ground level, what's the swell feel on the ground swell. And so I've had a business over the last 13 years. I closed it last November to pursue this, to sell real estate and have a license in that. And served in the U.S. Army. I had a couple different businesses in my lifetime.
Thank you for your service.
And so it was one of those things. I just every year for 13 years in New York, but other years in other states, in Georgia and stuff. I just got, every year there was new regulation, there was new taxation, there was another insurance you had to carry, another half a point here and a half a point there, things that, you were paying on, whether it be insurance, unemployment, a new regulation, a new guideline. And it's really tough for small businesses because we have to sit there and, now it's January. Here's a bunch of new regulations that are taking place, checking with our attorney, checking with our accountant, who get paid, $300 an hour. So you try and keep the conversation as short as possible with them. And, so just trying to find out what you need to change. I've got 3 kids here that I'm raising up in New York, and each one of them, as I talk to them, my youngest just turned 17 yesterday, and but each one of them, my oldest is in dental school, my middle one is in college out in Ohio. As I talk to them, they're like, "Dad, I just don't want to stay in New York." And not because I'm a complainer. I'm probably the opposite of a complainer. Sherry's known me since, like I said, forever, and I it's not something that's in my DNA. So I don't come home and complain to my kids. I don't complain to my family going, "There's just too much taxes. There's just too much regulation." I'm actually sitting there on the other end with them going, "What can I do to help encourage you to stay here in New York?" And they're like, "Well, if we live just about anywhere else, we make 10% more right off the get-go." And that's just on income taxes compared to a lot of other states, including Florida, where you don't have some of those things in some of the other states.
Well, not to mention, when you look at that as well, another thing that plays into effect is not just the income tax, but also the cost of living, in New York. And, when you start talking about, the state taxes, and then you got your federal taxes and your actually employment taxes. With you being
Correct.
one of the people that's on the front lines, basically, and what I like to call the door knockers, you guys, you're the guy that's out there that are talking to the everyday people that are out there on the streets. And since you're on the front line, you probably got the best perspective out of any of us as to what your constituents there in New York, the people that are in your district, and what is actually on their mind. I mean, what is the most important thing to them right now? What is it that they are looking for from their local governments that they want changed? That besides what we hear and see in the mainstream media, this stuff with Flynn and so on and so forth, that really doesn't trickle down all the way to the core of our people and the small business owners and the people that go and work their 9-to-5 jobs. What's most important to them is what are you seeing out there when you're door knocking and you're getting into this, and what is it that the people want to see change the most?
Well, directly related to the COVID thing, I think it's an embarrassment, and I can only speak about New York. As I'm talking with people, it's an embarrassing situation that I think they're running with Commodore 64s up in New York State, running our unemployment offices. I mean, the computers are crashing, the websites are crashing. Obviously, people are trying to fill them out, and then after they crash, it doesn't go up for hours sometimes. Then they have to make a phone call to call somebody, and the lines are busy. I've never had situations where people are telling me the lines are busy. Here, I don't know how old everyone else is on the phone or on the cast here, but
We're old
they
as
have a
dirt.
beep, 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 beep. Okay, there you go.
Speak
All
for
right.
your-
So
I'm
everyone does
only
understand what
30.
busy
I don't know
means.
I'm 30 years old. I don't know what you're talking about. I started counting after 30. So.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Now, Mr. Ike, let me ask you. You mind if I ask you a question or two?
Absolutely.
So, who are you running against, if you don't mind? I mean,
I'm running against Chris Friend.
Okay, excellent. And what separates you from him, if you don't mind?
So I know Chris. Sherry probably knows Chris. He was a couple years behind us in the high school we went to get to school together with. And Chris is a nice guy. But like I said, over the years, I feel like we're kind of we need to get past the nice guy. We need somebody up there who has a background of dressing up in mop gear, firing weapons, defending our country, knows what it means to just pour out their blood, sweat, and tears for this country.
Yeah.
And is willing to do it again.
Yeah.
Somebody with a backbone.
With drive.
Exactly, because when you look at I don't know that much about your area because of course I'm not from there. I've got relatives in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, and since you're the one out there on the hitting the pavement, knocking on doors, and you're talking to these people, and you see what's coming up and what they're most concerned about, that's when you look at people's platforms, when you start thinking, okay, so what are you going to do when you get in there to change that? And it's a vague question that everybody wants to ask you, and a lot of people don't understand how politics works. And when you start getting into the government, all the red tape that you have to go through, and
right,
I don't want to say it in the mafia sense, but it's the $50 handshake to get what you want, or try to get something moving.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened in our federal government as well as our local governments. And so,
right,
when you look at the person you're running against, he's been in office for a while.
He's been in for 10 years.
Yeah,
If it's 10 years and nothing gotten better, that's like when I look at it, I'm not going to keep a losing football coach, for 10 years. I mean, I'm a Dolphins fan. We don't keep him for 2.
We don't even necessarily have to say that Chris is losing. It's just a change in perspective, right? The new connection. One of the things that Ike brought up was his kids, and I actually, when I was scrolling his Facebook, checking him out,
Stalker.
it was that post. Well, I knew that Sherry wanted to call in on him, so I wanted to look at. I did what a voter should do, even though I can't vote for him.
Good for you.
I went and looked.
Exactly.
Well, what can I find out about this guy? And that he has the kids, and then he brought up that hey, look, I don't need to build a city for me. I need to build a city for them.
For the future.
Exactly.
And that's really what rang for me. And that changes, right? There's some things that I'm only in like my mid 30s. Some of the dances that I have 3 boys, small, 10. My oldest is only 10. Some of the dances these kids do is like, dude, it looks so retarded. You look ridiculous, bro. You definitely look like you need medication. But I just want to laugh with them, and every now and then I'll walk through the house and I'll do one of their little dances real fast, like just to make them laugh, and then I keep walking.
Well, hold on. Do you practice that in your room, though?
No.
Come
no.
on.
You should have seen me the first time I tried to do a dab. I'm like, what is a dab? Are you
Right.
serious?
Yeah, I always thought of
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Our parents said the
we-
same thing to us
we're on the
about
same
how we
pig
used to
with
dance. Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
the big
After
thing.
after some of the dances I try and do with my kids, I have to go visit the chiropractor. But
Yeah.
I'm willing.
Well, I think that's important. He's trying to build a city for them and not for him.
Absolutely, and even though we're a national show, I'm from that area. I've got a lot of friends and family still in that area, and I know they're tuning in and listening, and that was another reason. Not only because I grew up with Ike and I wanted to bring him on so we could hear his perspective, but because I respect where he's coming from. I think like a lot of people that get into this, you never really know where they're going to come out on the end of things with that possible corruption and with the lobbyists and with all of that craziness, but Ike is solid stock, where we come from, and he's going in
that's
from
how you feel about Ike.
yeah, solid stock. Yeah, he is solid.
Is this upstate New York?
Yeah, this is how we talk about each other in upstate New York. We got critics
See,
too.
I knew it was because when she said it comes from a solid stock, I automatically thought, okay, that's not city talk. That's more like St. Albans area.
Yeah.
I went to school. I went to school in Vermont.
The school we went to is called Horseheads. I mean, we got farmers up here.
Oh,
Horse
my God.
heads. Yeah.
Horseheads.
I thought about
Yes.
something else when
Literally
she said
covered
solid
like-
stock. I'm like, oh, is he a donor? He's got those good genes.
So-
I got them good genes. Hey, he looks good bald. So
Yeah. He
I
didn't
know you
used to
can't
be.
see me, but us bald folks, you got to be
There
the
you
right guy
go.
to pull it off.
Yeah, you're not hiding much anymore, are you?
We're benefiting from it right now because all the other the follically enhanced people all can't go to the barbers now and can't go to the
Enhanced. I like that.
I think some of those guys are taking Rogaine. There's no way that they can be the same age as me and get that full head of hair. I think
Right.
something's going on.
Hey, I'm 43 and I still got a full head of hair. So
Yeah, some people.
now my dad turned totally gray. My dad turned totally gray by the time he was 33. And I told him when I was 39, I was like, how come I haven't got gray hair yet? Because you weren't married to your
Really?
mother.
Oh, and you don't have gray hair.
And you didn't have to raise your sister. So I was like, oh, okay, I got you.
Man, that's funny.
Yeah, if you have daughters, they definitely will. They'll go quicker.
Oh, absolutely.
So I've got a 26-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old daughter. So
One
Go
of
ahead.
the other things I was going to ask you, being up in the area that you're in, has it been more of a Democratic run? City, county, municipality up there, has it generally leaned Democratic over the years?
So no, actually, if you look at the last few elections, a large portion of upstate, when you take out New York City, Albany, a little bit around Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester area, most of the rest of the state is Republican because it's very rural. A lot of farmers, a lot of small businesses, kind of support the towns, and that's kind of where we live. A lot of hunters, so there's strong Second Amendment.
That's where your friend the deer can go
believers
live,
up here.
TJ.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. He definitely doesn't
Send him up
want
there. He doesn't want to go up there.
the transgender self-identifying deer to be living in that
So-
area.
So I mean, we do hunting, and we do camping. I grew up doing Boy Scouts, and no bad things happened with me in Boy Scouts.
Mhm.
But so I mean, we did those type of things around here. We have lakes around here. We go kayaking, canoeing, boating, fishing.
Awesome.
There's a lot of that, self-sustaining type of mentality. It's New York tough. There's two different New York toughs. There's New York tough, like I'm from the Bronx, let's get in a fight. Then there's New York tough upstate where it's like, let's spend 15 days out in the woods and see how tough you are.
That's right.
Because I can bury a body and nobody will find you.
We're solid stock up here.
Solid stock.
Solid stock up there. Ike, you're funny.
Give it-
I can't. Oh, did you have another question?
No, I
Fred?
did. Just because I figured you're gonna try to let him go. Give us just your. I don't want to say your talking points because that sounds negative, but just give us that that elevator speech of what you want to bring to the table.
Well, I want to make New York more friendly to businesses, families, and decrease taxation regulation. I mean, one of the things I've fought for my family and I fought for my country, and I'm ready to fight for the people of the district. And as long as that fire burns hot, I'm going to be running for assembly. As soon as that fire goes away, then I think it's time for me to move on, and that's what I would encourage any politician to do.
Oh, thank you so much, Ike, and I appreciate everything that you're doing up there for my friends and family still in the area.
Sherry.
Ike, I know. Sorry, I missed that last class reunion, buddy. I'll have to make it up there. I'll have to make it up there for the next one.
What was that all about?
I know. Well, you got that whole worky schmirky thing I gotta take care of, down here. But I know your time is valuable, and we've held you up here a great deal. And I want you to know how much I really appreciate you joining us today. And
Thank you.
why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, those that are in your area in upstate New York, friends, family, or anybody else around the nation that may have people that are located in your particular district where they can locate you and your information.
Yeah, they can find out more about me at lightdike2020.com. I'm on. Obviously, you guys are shooting my Facebook page around, so I'm on there as RCI for Assembly in New York.
Great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate
And
you
we wish
joining.
you well.
Yes. Good luck to you.
Yeah, I want to
Thank
have
you.
you back on the show when you win this election. That's what
Right.
I want.
Good idea.
The victory lap. I want the exclusive.
Right.
Thanks for stopping in,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ike.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so that was great having Ike on, and it gives us perspective of what's going on out there, in different parts of the country. The next segment that we're going to go into was a little piece that I pulled up from personal experience this week. The post that we put, or the subject I want to talk about is, when can it be illegal to withdraw your own money? So when we start thinking about institutions of banks, okay, what is a bank and what does it do? You get your paycheck, it's direct deposited, the funds go into that account. Now, let's say you've been saving your money for a while and you want to go make a large purchase, right? And then you're going to withdraw that cash from your bank. I recently decided to purchase a boat. And, the gentleman, of course, wanted cash so he didn't have to report it to the IRS.
It's a beauty. It's gorgeous.
Yes, it is a gorgeous boat. It is very nice. And I went to go, and Foshin was actually with me. So I go to the bank, and I'm not going to mention their name, but it's in America.
It's a horrible bank. It's a horrible bank.
It's a bank, and it's in America. So I went to this bank, and of course I go in, and I'd say, I want to withdraw X amount of dollars, and they said, well, we're sorry, we don't have that much money. I'm like,
Right.
excuse me? And to talk, let's put it
Did
this way.
that make your money feel safe?
It was south of $30,000. We'll put it that way. So then I started thinking to myself while I'm standing in line, I'm thinking, how is a bank with probably a $200,000 vault not have enough money in it for me to withdraw my cash, my money? So I started thinking about the Depression. And remember in the Depression, what caused the stock market crash was the run on the banks.
Yep.
Stock market started to crash, and everybody ran to the banks, and there was no money there.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that went through my mind when I'm standing there. I'm like, okay, so you don't have enough money to give me? And, what about all these other people in line? Who knows what they're going to withdraw or deposit? And that really goes to show you our banking, your bank nowadays is not really based on money.
There's no way
it's
that not
electronic.
enough people have brought in the cash to pay you less than $30,000.
Well, and look at
Come on.
You got to look at it this way, and this is part of the article that I looked up. In the article, it states a couple of things. This was actually on MSNBC, believe it or not, or CNBC. The article states, of course, if you make any withdrawal over $10,000 and 1 penny, it has to be reported to the IRS. I'm like, well, why do I have to report to the IRS? It's money I've been taxed on. It's my money. Right? So now this is the thing. The amount I had to take out, I ended up having to go to 3 banks. Now, each amount was under that $10,000. So I didn't have to report it to the IRS.
3 times.
No, because it was under 10 grand. So 3 times I had to go to 3 different banks.
That didn't red flag anything?
No, it doesn't red flag it because it only reports.
I mean, the bank themselves should feel like, are
the
you being
bank-
robbed?
No,
or
the bank teller. Well, no, this is the thing. The bank teller, the first bank I went to, she goes, well, what are you using the money for?
No way, I would lose it. I would
so
lose
hold
it.
on. This is
Like,
me.
well, I found a couple checks.
This is me being me, of course, in the bank. So when the first teller asked me, I said, well, frankly, my dear, it's none of your damn business. It's my money. I just want to get my money.
You should have told her midget hookers and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Oh,
Well,
no.
the second, the second bank teller asked me the same question. So I was like, okay. So I was
now
like,
we're gonna have fun with
now
this.
I'm gonna have fun. I said, so the second bank teller asked me. I said, well, I'm going to the casino and I'm betting on black. She goes, really? I said, why not? COVID-19's here. It's the end of the world. I'm gonna see if I can get some money out of this. So this is the biggest hypocrisy of the whole thing. We go to the third bank, and I go through the drive-thru. So I'm not going inside. There's tens of people in there. I don't want to see it. I'm diabetic. So I go through drive-thru, and I tell the lady, I said, I need to withdraw X amount of dollars. She says, well, we can't give you that much. I said, what do you mean? I said, I just did it at another bank through the drive-thru. At your same bank that's in America. And I go through there, and she comes back to the window. I said, listen, I'm diabetic. You got people wearing masks and stuff in there. I'm trying. I said, this is the third bank I've been to. I do not want to go in and have to deal with all these people touching your door. You're not wiping down anything. So she comes back and says, well, okay, let me talk to my manager. She comes back and says, okay, we can do it. I said, oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for, for doing that for me. Then she walks back and goes, I'm sorry, we can't give you that amount through the drive-thru. I said, so she goes, you have to come inside. I said, so let me get this straight. You can give me up to $1,000 through the drive-thru over the counter, but I got to come inside and get anything over $1,000 over another counter. I said, what's the difference between this counter at the drive-thru with a glass window between us and the counter that doesn't?
Right.
I said, do you realize how hypocritical and how ironic the situation is? You're talking about COVID-19. Everybody that enters has to wear a mask. I'm standing between you and
safest.
Yeah, I said, I'm sitting in between you and 2 inches of thick glass.
A bullet can't even get through here.
Not even. And you want me to come inside? I said, it was the most ridiculous thing that I've dealt with during this whole COVID-19 thing. And I was at a loss of words for it. So then it prompted me to go home and look up, what the actual laws are. So come to find out, all of your local banks, depending on size, only carry up to $50,000 in cash.
So how much do you think Fort Knox? Do you think they really have gold there?
That just is way left field.
Well, I'm just saying that all you
But
had
to answer your
was,
question, yes,
Well,
they do have gold.
you didn't have to Google it. You could have just called me. I would have saved you all a lot of trouble that day. Jeez.
There's more paper money than there is based on a gold value sitting in Fort Knox.
That's true.
But this brings me to my other point. And when you look at it, and this is what the scary thing is that you look at all of your local banks, okay? Now, each one only has $50,000 at a time on hand. So when you start thinking about that, what if it came down to where the stock market was crashing and everybody made that run on the banks? It'd be total chaos. It'd be absolute and total chaos.
What? I'm listening.
Go ahead.
I'm listening to you. Just playing with my head.
But you see what I'm saying? That's the whole thing. It's all of our banking money. It's numbers in a computer, people.
Right.
It's all stored digitally. The sad thing is that when we think about it, it's probably some 19-year-old that came up with a security protocol software. Who
I
set
actually
up my
prefer to
banking.
not keep my money in the bank.
No, I'm coming to that now. The only problem is I can't withdraw it. I'd have to hit 5 or 6 more banks before I get it out.
Yeah. Man.
Oh.
But just think
silly.
about that, though. That's a bank that doesn't have all the money. All they're doing is moving that digital currency, though.
That's it.
I mean, and it seems like a lot of places are trying to do that nowadays where you don't even have to touch the cash anymore. You know what I mean? It's like...
So is that what prompted you to look up all?
Exactly.
That's where you landed on the article.
That's where I landed on the article. That personal experience I had, because it made me think, why does my bank not have enough money, and why do I have to go to 3 of them and everyone tell me the same damn thing? I mean, I can understand you got to hold some cash because people cash in checks and so on and so forth, but I mean, it wasn't like I was trying to buy a yacht. It's in Trump's world it would be a dinghy.
A dinghy, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Where are you
There's
buying
nothing wrong
that
with a
paddle
dinghy.
boat?
I used to have a dinghy.
It's more like an inflatable pool raft.
Oh, that's funny.
Hmm.
So,
So
TJ still got to. Go ahead, finish.
Well, this is what I'd say. If anybody else feels the same way I do about this, please go to our page and comment on it, because I would love to hear
Oh, we
anybody
got-
else's experiences on this.
Oh, I don't really have stories here, but yeah, we haven't touched on the comments for a while. Angela made a funny. We were talking about the dances earlier. She said the Pee Wee Herman dance.
Right.
Ooh, that and the
Remember
Running
that?
Man.
I
The
love that
Running Man.
dance. Hold on,
I
I
love
love
it.
that dance.
Why'd
Come
you have
on.
to bring
I
that
am
up,
not
Angela?
surprised that you would love the Pee Wee Herman dance.
Hey,
The Carlton, man. The Carlton was the.
That's
my
was
favorite.
epic.
the salsa.
Let's see. Tony says, I went to the bank once and an old guy walked in wanting to withdraw $7,000 in cash, looking to buy a car from somebody. The teller told him they didn't have that much on the premise. I don't understand this. Elizabeth, she said she had the exact same experience when trying to buy a car. She said banks in town are still drive-through only. I don't know if Elizabeth, where are you?
White County.
Tony said, plus you have fractional reserve banking.
Yeah, I would say it's fractional. They only gave me a fraction of my money in each
Right.
bank. It pissed me off.
At 3 different banks.
I had to drive into another county. Okay, I had to go.
God. It's like,
And then I went for my MRI today, and I had to disclose that I went to another county before I can go in for my MRI on my knee.
welcome to the new.
All because of travel.
Yeah, all because of travel.
You just went to a county over, though.
So
I drove 30 miles.
Well, county to county, things can change.
they got TJ like really on some money trip.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead and-
he's all
Let's
he's
go ahead
all
and jump
No,
fired
they're
up.
wanting
This
to
was
keep your
pretty
money
crazy.
so they can keep it.
Hey, listen, I'm like J.G. Wentworth. It's my money, and I want it now.
This next one from TJ was pretty crazy.
Which one was that? Oh, the Planned Parenthood. Yes. So when we start talking about stimulus money, Planned Parenthood and its affiliates improperly applied for and received $80 million in coronavirus stimulus funds. Think about this, okay? We tell everybody in America that you can't have your elective surgery because of the coronavirus. And then we turn around and we allow people like Planned Parenthood to apply for stimulus money when, one, they're already getting federal money. They're already federally backed. And then they're asking for stimulus money. So I gotta pad the pockets of the people that want to give, perform abortions. To me, that doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. Do you imagine what $80 billion could have done for the homeless in the city of San Francisco?
Yeah, but where is Planned Parenthood putting all their political money at?
Well, we know where the political money goes. But the problem is the way that the first stimulus package that was written, the way it was written, it allowed for people like this to do this. We talk about small business owners and where the money should have gone.
And it hasn't gone there whatsoever.
Small business owners aren't getting jack. You got companies like this. I mean, you look at the scandal with Harvard getting $40 billion when they're sitting on a $60 billion. Yeah, come on. You know what? I'm sorry. The small business of America, the backbone of this country, and because there's a ton of small business out there, it's free enterprise. That's what we love about this country. You know what? If you're making billions of dollars a year in profit, there's no way in hell that you should be applying for any stimulus money whatsoever. I don't care.
But hold on. You gotta look at one thing. A lot of these companies are on the stock market, and who are they beholden to? They're beholden to the stockholders that sit there.
No, so I looked them up.
Okay.
Planned Parenthood's
Not Planned
yearly.
Parenthood,
I know, but that's what we're talking about.
yeah, I'm sorry.
L.A. Lakers isn't on the stock.
Sorry, it's privately owned.
Planned Parenthood. I looked them up. $1.24 billion yearly budget. Their yearly budget is in the billions. Between 2018 to 2019, even though they cited that abortions were not the majority of their operation,
They're not.
from 2018 to 2019, 423,000 abortions were performed.
Didn't they do are they giving it back though? Do they say they're
They're
giving
going to
back?
be
I thought I
forced
read.
to, right?
Yeah.
So there was a bunch of congressmen. Rick Scott actually did. What's his other name that?
I just
tried
want to
run
be fair,
for president that was from here. Marco Rubio.
Yep.
He wrote a statement going back. I thought this was kind of funny in the same article that TJ sent me. here was the Planned Parenthood's request for money from the Trump administration came just months after affiliate president and CEO Laura Myers promised to turn down federal funding. Planned Parenthood is never going to allow the Trump-Pence administration to bully us into withholding critical health information from health information from our patients. Myers said last August, after the White House banned Planned Parenthood's clinics from making abortion referrals, if they wanted to continue receiving federal funds at the time, Planned Parenthood vowed to give up federal funding entirely rather than comply with the order. So you already said you don't want federal money,
but you're going to take it
but then
anyway.
you win.
And applied for stimulus on it. It's not like the government just said, here's some cash. Somebody, some attorney working for Planned Parenthood said, hey, let's apply for $80 million. You know, and that's the the hypocrisy of the whole thing. When you look at some of these companies that were, when we talked about, and actually let me go back a little ways. We talk about the bailout back in 2006, 2007,
Right.
where the United States government went and bailed out the auto industry. You know, the only company that it didn't bail out was Ford, because Ford restructured and said, no, we don't want the bailout. At that point in time, guess what? I'm a taxpayer using my tax dollars. As far as I'm concerned, we now own part of that company.
Right.
I now have just become a shareholder. You used my money, just like the bank. You use the bank's money, you pay interest, right?
Yep.
Well, if you use the taxpayer's
Everybody
money,
else.
you need to pay interest on that money that you borrowed from the government, because that's our tax dollars.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy when I read the article you sent, and then when I started to look back into them, Tony. And I don't want to beat them up too bad about their choice. I'm not in my own personal belief. I in a lot of aspects believe in personal choice. Period. I don't think any policy should ever prevent somebody from doing. Oh, we are getting a phone call.
Oh yeah, we forgot about phone calls. Y'all got so excited
did.
today.
We'll take the phone call and then we'll get back to it. I always want to say this. Hello, you are on the air.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking my call. I just want to respond to the gentleman a little while ago. He said, when was the last time the budget was balanced? Well, I think it was 98 or 99, and Newt Gingrich made a pledge to America that he would have the budget balanced in 2 or 3 years. Okay, so the Republicans had the House, they had the Senate, in spite of Clinton, and they passed it, and the budget was balanced. I don't think this country or the masses of people went into so much shock. They didn't starve. Everybody was fine. So why can't we do it again?
And this is the thing, caller, is we can. And where we can do that again. It's absolutely 100% possible. But where it starts,
takes fiscal responsibility.
Absolutely.
And,
but where does it start? Where does it start at? It starts
it can't start right now because they spent so much money. I mean, we've gone from 22 trillion to 29 trillion, and they want to add another 3 trillion on top of that. Well, that means a dollar's going to be worth not a damn cent. Okay. I don't understand why these people think we can just keep giving money away. It's ridiculous.
But where do you go to make those changes? How would you start? Because I'm gonna give you a little insight. You know where it starts at? It starts at the ballot box, because the people that are in office now, who've allowed this to happen, need to be removed. And the biggest opportunity that we have to do that is at the ballot box, whether it be local government, state government, or federal government. We have to get in there and we have to vote. We need to know what the platforms these people stand on, what they're going to do differently. We cannot continue to go on with the same old, same old. The same old does not work. So,
100% agreement. Why don't people wake up and start listening to what the politicians are telling them instead of voting, I'm a Democrat, I'm going to vote Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm going to vote Republican. This is crap.
Because we've gotten lazy.
You need to start listening to their platform, what they're going to do, and in turn, the politicians start listening to the people. This is our country. It's not theirs. We need to control them. They don't need to control us.
Absolutely, I agree. And the way that happens is you get to the ballot box and voice your opinion.
The ballot box. So why don't people wake up? I don't understand it. Okay, I'm sorry. Y'all have a great evening. I've enjoyed your broadcast.
Thank you.
Thank you,
caller.
Man,
Passionate. Very passionate.
why don't he run?
Have another beer.
I will.
He should run.
Well, he brings up a good point. Why aren't they? We talked about that, touched on a little bit earlier, and so I'm not going to take up too much time because I know we're running long today. But I think the answer is because we're in a me society right now. Isn't that very true? And people are interested in not so much what's going to happen in the future, but they're interested in what's going to happen to me right now, or what can be done that's going to affect me right now, or that's going to, I should better say, benefit me right now. And that's just a very small percentage, folks. I mean, I'm looking at these people online asking these questions. I saw somebody post the other day, when's our second stimulus check coming? They're so out of touch with what's going on. Because they heard from somebody's brother's husband, sister's, nephew that they passed something or other. They're not digging, TJ.
They're not digging, and they're not informed. And this is the thing. We unfortunately, and this goes back to the youth of our nation and what we've done. We have done our youth a very big disservice by not making politics or not making government important, not making them understand it and how it works, and how every decision they make and that all of us make affects us.
But then they go back to where we shouldn't fear the politicians; they should fear us. I mean, isn't that what government was made for?
A great man once said, "Not ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country."
John F. Kennedy, yes,
you know
sir.
What? And you know what? And that's the problem is that we have too many people right now asking what the country's going to do for us instead of what we can do for our country.
So
I
like that
I'm
point.
gonna give you, since you guys are just hitting home runs all over the place, right?
It's your turn.
This will be
take us home.
This is the check. Who's your council member?
I just moved here, so
No,
I can't.
who's
be
your
held
council member? You don't know? Do you know, Foshin? Who's your council member?
What do you mean? Like in the county?
Your city council. Who's your council member?
I have no earthly idea.
You know who your council member is, TJ?
It's that Democrat idiot.
We're not talking about Javino or whatever.
Oh, Javon, it's Chia something. The one that just got investigated.
No, that's
that's your city manager.
Oh, city manager. Oh yeah, he was cleared, by the way. But he's
No,
resigning.
they just couldn't. They couldn't prove it.
Yeah,
so you don't know who your council member is.
No, don't know the council.
See, so you guys preached all this about holding politicians and voting this, and none of you can name.
But we all
the
do
close,
it. Though.
Hold
we
on.
All do it.
Jennifer Nelson is my council member. I go to council meetings. Either I have an issue. I don't go every Monday when they have them, but I'll at least watch it online. They actually broad stream it. You can watch it online if you don't want to go. But then I go down and I know Parks and Rec director. I know who the economic development director is. You got those. If I can't touch the politician closest to me, like my congressman, and obviously some of it's a little different. I would have to at least admit that I've worked on campaigns. I worked on DeSantis's campaign. I worked on Rick Scott's campaign. So that kind of puts me a different. So I'm not casting a stone at you guys. But if we're going to tell people to get out and vote and be connected, it has to start at home. If we're talking about our kids, we're talking about all of these things. It starts at home.
And you're so right about that. You are so right about that.
You are right about that. And I have helped and worked on campaigns before, and I'm relatively new to the area, but I am the type to go to the meetings and to post and questions and get involved. But
right.
I have to buy a house first. Let me figure out. I don't even know what district I'm going to be in yet.
That's true.
Me and Foshin did say we were going to go to the next council meeting.
Monday.
Let's
go.
Well,
I'm there.
So
I'm at them.
What time is it on Monday?
They start at 4:30.
All right, so I can't get there till after 5 because of work.
That's fine.
But they generally run till about 8 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah. Well, it all depends on what's on the agenda. But it just, I think this episode.
Do you really want to go?
We'll talk about it off air. I think this episode all went into. I cut most of what I was going to present because I knew it was going to run over. But I thought it was funny that everything that we talked about or that just miscellaneously popped up has been a part of our thing or what we wanted to talk about for each other. But money, the debt, right? So this is our current global debt. $58,788,694.
$762.
Oh, you skipped to the end. That's fine. If you on the right, you see so the public debt percentage of GDP is 93.6 in our country, right? The big number at the top is actually the world. What applies to us is there on the right. Total annual debt charge is 9.9%. The scary part, public debt per person is $55,093.38. Literally, each one of us owe that
So we need to live
for what
like
our politicians
300 years?
decide to do. Because you, TJ, you went and bought a boat with your money.
Yep.
That is not calculated here.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
But you still owe this $50,000.
Of course. And the reason why I still owe that $50,000
And that
is
bank
because
wants
of
to
what?
keep their money.
Oh, that's right. Well, but it's not owed to Bank of America. Bank of in America. There's a bank in America. But so basically, what I'm saying is, when you look at the policies, and when you look at, and that's why everybody understands when you hear all these people screaming for stimulus checks, understand this: that money has to be paid back from somewhere.
Yep.
And where does it get passed down to over the long run? It gets passed down to us, the citizens. Okay, because the government doesn't make its own money.
Right.
It doesn't do it. It prints, and it'll print the shit
Right,
out of it.
but it doesn't
make money.
it.
So when you look at it this way, and how much each individual person in the United States is in debt to the government and what it's for, this is where you have to start looking at the programs that we're paying for. When you look at all the foreign aid that we give, when you look at all the entitlement programs that we run, when you look at the frivolous spending on idiotic crap that we do here in this country,
$300 for a hammer, folks.
yeah, what was it? Was it $10,000 for a toilet?
Yep.
And so when you start looking about that, and the funny thing is, I used to listen to contractors who would come in with a bid for a governmental job, and they underbid it. How could you underbid it? If I got somebody who's going to do the same exact work, same amount of product,
Right.
same quality, no, you're too low. I want to pay the higher guy. That's what's wrong. And then when you look at, for instance, when we talk about funding some of these programs that are absolutely asinine, and this is what I think I'm going to do. I think over the week for our next show, I'm going to go into the budget that was passed for the federal government. And I'm going to go and I'm going to list all of the entitlement programs that are out there and the frivolous stuff that we spend money on as a nation. And then that way people will know exactly where your money's going. Because the thing is, the 99.9% of us out there don't know where our tax dollars go.
Right.
And how many people really think about that, though?
Even if you cared, it's actually so entwined in these nightmare of a web that we couldn't even sit down and chase out that dollar. I almost swear you probably couldn't even get out of your state.
I would take it even further, and I would say even a project or an item on that list that is deemed essential, that does not guarantee that the money that is spent on that item is going to be spent well. Look at how many websites that we paid billions of dollars to create that just ended up being a mess.
Like, do we
Yeah,
need
Florida,
need $20 million to track the Canadian geese and its migration to the south?
DeSantis said the Florida unemployment website, they paid $70,000.
Why?
$70,000
I can go get a high school kid to do
for
it
for an unemployment website. Something that is generally like 3% of your state is actually accessing.
My brother-in-law, it was just funny because just yesterday my brother-in-law was accessing because he's laid off. He's been waiting 8 weeks. They finally sent him an email and said, okay, we're going to send you this pin. We need you to go in there and make your own pin. So after 8 weeks, he goes in to set the pin. They said, okay, we're going to email your new one to this email address. He's like, that's not my email address. Couldn't do anything from the website. Had to call in. This is at 4:30 in the afternoon. He's on hold for 45 minutes. The guy picks up, and I swear to God, it was like somebody, like an ex-girlfriend called me. Hello? Are you there? I can't hear you. Are you there? Hello? Click.
No way.
And the funny thing, I saw this happen to him. And the funny thing was there was an article out from one of the employees that worked for the company that was contracted by the state of Florida and said he was taught by other people how to basically subvert the call and not have to take the call because these people are actually working from their homes.
Right.
So the whole thing was there were so many calls coming in that the people were just not taking calls. So after that call hung up, he called back again. And they said, your minimum wait time is 2 hours. This is at 5 o'clock, and the 800 number closes at 6. So I still don't know the end result if he got through to anybody today. But, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the state of Florida needs to sue the crap out of him. And this would be one of the forefront things that is on every local politician's mind, because this affected the whole state.
Absolutely.
In multiple states.
So one, I'll bring up about this debt thing. If in thinking about this, when I don't know, this came up in mind and starting to look into it and everything else, I almost would agree in taking that note from liberals and saying, for this purpose, we can wipe that debt out. And I, in my own personal opinion, will say the mega millionaires and billionaires owe a portion of that profit to that debt.
Well, they
Because
owe
you've made
$50,000.
that money. Nobody making $1 billion or has $1 billion has actually performed for the dollar that's sitting in their bank account. Now, sports athletes, we could say they might get paid too much, I don't know, on or off, but they're paid to get on a court or a field and play, to perform. If you don't perform, you don't put on the jersey, and you're not going to get paid.
You think
At
they're
least they
overpaid?
are
Do you think they're
performing.
overpaid? Do you think they're overpaid?
I mean, how...
No, honestly, do you think they're overpaid? I mean, you're going to sit there and you're talking about billionaires, but now you're talking about athletes that make millions and millions of dollars.
Oh,
too.
I'm not saying that they don't have their share. I didn't say that nobody else. I'm making the point that when you get to that certain level, that you're a multi-billionaire. You yourself, Bill Gates does not perform any task whatsoever that makes him profit. Nothing. The guy doesn't even really know how to do half the stuff his company does. He's out trying to sell vaccines. And he can't even stop his own computer from getting a virus, okay?
Nope, understood.
Well, this thing, everybody, free enterprise is free enterprise. You have the right to make whatever you want to make, as much as you want to make. Now, this is the thing. Everybody should be paying something forward. Everybody should do their
That's
part.
That's
Everybody
my
should
point.
do their part. Okay, and I totally 100% agree with that.
Well, hold on. Look at this debt. Everybody owes $50,000.
But the thing is,
It says it
But
right
that's
there.
not that's not an honest true debt, for one, because I haven't taken $50,000 from my country. That part. Now the other part, the ones that do take up that portion, I don't believe that they're owed it. If somebody rightfully so as an American is down and they need welfare, now I wish the welfare rules were different. I wish it would be a lot harder. You can't keep popping babies and sit on welfare forever, right?
No, you're right about that.
That part, but I don't hold it to them. I hold it to the corporation or the person that feels the necessity to leverage another man's effort or skill for his own maximum gain. Should I make some money off it if I bring TJ a customer? Maybe. TJ, oh man, yeah, thank you. It was a great deal. But in that relationship, if I told DJ, oh, I brought you this customer and he's going to charge the customer $500. And I told TJ, oh, well, let me make $700 on it. TJ would look at me really crazy, like, hold on, how you going to make more money than me and I'm the one making the work? That's exactly what corporations are doing.
But
when you talk about the overall profit of a corporation, you talk about corporations growing, there has to be a fair amount that they should have to pay. And what a lot of people don't realize, they think, oh, all these corporations make all this money, they don't pay that much in taxes. But the reality of it is the top 1% pay 80% of our federal taxes every year. Mm-hmm. The top 1%. Those are your millionaires and your billionaires. So the other 99% of us, in retrospect to what we make, pay a lot less than what the top 1% does. So
but think about this. What are we really paying for?
But you look at it this way. Everybody talks about the tax cuts that came through when Trump became president. But what did the tax cuts also do? They brought corporations back to America because they lowered the corporation tax, the corporate tax, which was at a high point at 35%. Right. We lowered that to allow manufacturing jobs to come back so we could pay employees higher rates instead of having to outsource cheap labor from China and India to make our product. Now, the same thing needs to happen along with our PPP and everything else in this country. We need to become more dependent on ourselves instead of living the luxurious lives that and this is how I say it, this is how far out some of the people are. There was a person who posted, I don't know why we have to have farmers. The grocery stores are always full of produce.
Seriously?
See, they're never going to be that person. Whoever they are will never be able to pay their $50,000.
No, that's some low hanging fruit. Right
Yeah,
there.
no, well, but I'm saying, but that's the mentality out there. We've become privileged in this day and age. We did not suffer like
Even the
our
lowest
parents
of us.
suffered, like their parents suffered, and so even the downtrodden that's here has not had to deal with what our previous generations
Right.
had to deal with. So we have become entitled ourselves. Even the person who thinks they're not entitled, you're entitled in some way or another. We have more luxuries at our fingertips today than anybody in this world.
Right. I
We
like
do.
to sum it up as we are kings to our own history.
Exactly. And
That is so true.
and the thing is that when you look at it, well, growing up, we made do for ourselves.
Right.
We were outside playing in the yard.
Right.
Nowadays, you take a kid's cell phone away, and don't even get me started on cell phones and kids, because I think that should be.
Because you got kids and they got cell phones.
I ain't got kids and they ain't got cell phones, but I watch my nieces and nephews, and I was like, there's no reason why any child should have a cell phone while they're in
None.
school.
I got 3 kids and they ain't got no cell
No,
phone.
exactly. That's ridiculous. For them to have it, but the culture that we've cultivated, in a sense, because of the fact that we're so technologically advanced nowadays compared to before, and with all this technology, we're becoming disconnected from the human interaction with people.
Yep.
And that's why we have people who are transgender, people who are identifying as deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest.
He watched too much National Geographic.
Well, one last question, though. When's the last time that you remember you could shake somebody's hand and that handshake meant anything to somebody?
Every time I give a handshake.
Thank you very much.
Except
See?
now.
But how many
But
other...
I'm
Except now since
rare.
Corona.
Yeah.
Now
No.
we're doing elbow bumps.
Right. And I guess in essence I'm rare, and I actually really hate this about my generation, that not only not honoring a handshake, but just the idea of a handshake. To me, even like, my kids play soccer, we show up on the field. I make sure I go to every parent when I show up. Hello, hello, hello. Shake your hand, shake your. And even we're on year 4, and some parents still look at me crazy every time I stick out my hand, like, "Oh, you want to shake hands?"
Isn't that like walking in New York City and saying hello to everybody, and they're looking at you like, "Go fuck yourself."
Well, your word used to be, your word was bond back in the day. A handshake and your word was all you needed.
It was, because it went beyond yourself. It didn't just encompass you and your reputation. It goes well beyond that. It's like ripples in the water. That meant, it affected you, your relatives, your parents, your children. Your word went beyond you.
But that's your word. That's the whole thing. That's what's missing
your
these
family's
days is when you reach your hand out there and you're shaking that person's hand, and both of your minds, that was a deal.
Yeah,
You don't go back to your lawyers and go, well,
Sorry, but my fingers were crossed behind my back.
you know what I mean? Or my toes were crossed or
Right.
something else. It's like a handshake is a handshake. A deal is a deal. And there's not – I'm trying to remember when that really, really changed out. And it seems like between the 80s and the 90s that really happened.
Yeah, it's been in the last 40 years.
It was the
But you remember what I'm saying, though. You could stick your hand out, and you know what?
our parents'
Whoever-
generation, that meant something, and then the disconnect started to happen.
Right.
Morals went away. The value of a man or a woman's word and a handshake lost its value. And the thing is, and again goes back to our youth. It's how your upbringing is. If you don't start early with kids and teach them moral fortitude and teach them things that are ethical and be true to your word and be an honest person, then it's going to fall apart. Civilizations fall for a reason.
Yeah, but
And
we're
that's
falling
because-
apart right now. That's the whole point. It's just we're not falling apart, but we're close to. We're very fractured.
I'll say that we're at a point to where it can go two very different ways. Do I think it's on a
We're at a
collapse?
crossroads.
We're at a crossroads.
We're at a
Absolutely.
crossroads.
Right.
I don't think it's on the verge of collapse. I think we're at a crossroads, and come this election cycle, I think, because you got to figure we're doing this podcast now and we're doing this page. I think more people are starting to get involved. More people are starting to realize, hey, listen, there's a lot of screwed up things going on, and maybe I should pay more attention to this because the people I'm voting in aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing for me. They're doing it based off their own personal interest.
For sure.
So I think more people are starting to take it. I've got my nieces are 16, 17, 18, 22. And they're more involved now in politics than I was at that age. And when we talk about the previous group where the disconnect started to happen, you know, and I'm excited to see them. In fact, they're all members of our page. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that we haven't lost it yet, but we're damn near close if we don't start doing something about it.
Amen.
So let me jump to the comments, and then I'll touch on one little thing. We'll start this closeout. Tony said, I never heard about this. So I guess you guys see if you've heard about it. Mark Dice did a video offering a Hershey bar or 1 ounce of silver. At the end of the video, he still had the silver.
I bet.
It's crazy.
Everybody
right?
wanted the
That's
Hershey bar.
Right. It's really, really crazy. Angela chimed in about kind of our last little thing. She said, your word was a reflection of your character and integrity.
And who your family was. Because there's a lot of people
Your
that
name
have.
meant something. Your name
Bingo.
meant something back then.
Tony said, ask a person which is more important, what's legal or what's moral. It will tell you a lot about them. We had that. I almost swear, the slides aren't pre-rehearsed for you guys that watch or listen. I produce the slides. They send me, what their talking point is or the things that they want to touch on that they feel is important inside the community. And I do mine, and obviously don't send them to anybody because I'm the one doing them, and we show up and we do them. And I swear, somebody here's around Google because we had the money conversation, right, earlier before my slides. And TJ, to me, I didn't directly draw a line in the correlation between the current slide and this next slide. But TJ actually just touched on it, and I mutually feel the same way. We have to bring it home. So this diagram, right, is the country exposure dependency to China. On the left, you see share of China input as shares of the total imported input. So this gives you a comparison of the percentage that a nation is dependent on China. On the left, DEU is Deutschland. You have France, Belgium, Netherlands. ESP is Spain, and Italy is under the yellow. The higher dependency comes to the right, and we're like the 5th highest nation in the world with a dependency on China. Just over 20%. We have a 20% dependency on China. And this is from Deutsche Bank. I don't have a reason to disbelieve their number. We'll just put it that way. I don't trust their company. But,
I was waiting for something to say about Deutsche Bank because
right.
Do you trust banks? Do you trust banks?
Well, I don't trust any bank, but Deutsche Bank is
after this week.
Deutsche Bank does a lot.
Are you not listening to my commentary?
Right. Deutsche Bank does operate in a lot of shady circles with a lot of black shadow organizations, for sure.
Hey, look, when you were a criminal, where'd you take your money? Switzerland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Hello. I mean,
or Caribbean.
Well, it would be bounced from the Caribbean to Switzerland. It was a whole network of
It was
operations.
always going to make it back if you really had money.
All they're doing is washing that money, coming back nice and clean.
Of
course, they're knocking off about 2 to 3%.
But I want to stay on this because TJ brought it up and it's there. We have to bring everything home. We're at a turmoil, a hard spot in our culture, in our nation, in our own moral value, and now it's hurting our pocket. It's hurting our personal health. The shit I don't understand. So you brought up the thing that somebody said about produce in a grocery store. Mm-hmm. We actually import lettuce from China. How does that make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah,
lettuce.
And the thing is, we import lettuce. 80% of our ingredients for our antibiotics are produced in China.
Right.
When you look at, and this is what, and not jumping on the Trump bandwagon, but this is what the administration
No, this isn't
saw.
about Trump.
No, but like I said, this is what the administration saw as far as
Right.
unfair trade deals
Right.
that were put into place where we were getting ripped off.
And
by
I hope
China.
people can see past that. That's what I mean by this isn't about Trump. This goes so much deeper
Right.
Exactly.
than your president. This has nothing to do with your president.
And think
This
about-
has the choice of what you do when you pull out your own wallet or your own purse. And we need to change the way we think about that.
And think about this, when we talk about trade in itself, okay, we export, we import, and you're supposed to have fair trade deals, back and forth. And for so long, it has been one-sided, to help. And this actually started back during the Jimmy Carter days with China, as far as propping their economy up and getting them rolling. And then, of course, companies started outsourcing to them for cheap labor rates because they can offer the product cheaper to the American citizens, and so on and so forth. We have to bring it back. And this is where our corporations need to look at this. How greedy do you want to be? Okay, you can make $3.4 billion a year if you outsource to China, or you can make $2.4 billion a year if you manufacture in the United States. You're still making $2.4 billion, but you're actually enriching the lives of the people of where your company is based, enriching the lives of everybody around you in the freest country in the world. And that's what we need to get back to.
Right.
The Made in the USA label should mean what it meant before.
Made in the USA.
Made in America, made in the USA before. There was not a country in this world that back during the 70s and 80s did not want American-made products. And so why can't we get back to that? I mean, we've never been more prosperous as a nation as far as our moral aptitude, as far as getting along as people ourselves. We grew as a country, but at the same time, we outsourced and sold ourselves out. Now, this is the thing.
But the politicians helps do that.
Well,
to us,
exactly, exactly. So, this is where it gets back to me on the political debate as far as president. We have a person running for president that's been in office or in government for 40 years. He's been in there during all these times that we've been negotiating bad trade deals and NAFTA and so on and so forth, and now he's running for president. And now here on the other hand, you have a president who came in and said, this is not right. We need to right the ship. We need to make sure that the trade deals are fair and balanced so America can grow and stay the leader of the world.
Right.
Okay? And that's what we need to get back to. And that upset the establishment.
Well, because they made
For
money,
sure.
and they made money and power.
And even if it's not Trump, I will say it really can't be another politician.
No.
Hopefully, no matter if Trump does get the second term, that's great. If he doesn't, hopefully he broke the mold. All right, in a way of leading a nation. Now, some people might really think this is far-fetched or be really offended, or they'll just agree. In the viewpoint or the perspective of leading a nation, Trump is Martin Luther King. He broke the mold and said, "I have a dream." That whole I have a dream. I'm not going to get into that part of it, but the concept that Martin Luther King did what he knew he could do for his effort, but he wanted to break the mold of the society, right, going forward. Trump, right, wrong, indifferent, whether great things, whether bad things, whether I don't agree in some of the stuff. Maybe some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth I don't actually agree in. His effort, I can't find fault in what you actually do. Yep. I can't find fault in it. So hopefully he has broken the mold, and now you really truly can say anybody can be president.
And this is the other thing. When you look at it, the reason why he shocked the world in 2016 is because the reason why people reached out to him is because they were tired of the establishment. We went with a person that was not a politician to go in there, because only a non-politician who hasn't been in government for 40 years is going to go in there and see things from a different light, from a different paradigm. They're going to go in there and they're going to see, from being on the outside looking in, now all of a sudden you're on the inside going, holy shit, this is all jacked up.
Right.
The
Let me drop this in real fast for Angela, if you're still on, call me, and I'm gonna give you the last word when we get ready to close out. We're gonna close out here in a few minutes. We're at 2 hours and 9 minutes. We'll go through all our closing statement, and then Angela will give you the last word. Tony said when talking about when talking about bringing things home, you have to look at the regulation put on manufacturing and the inflated wage caused by labor unions. There's reasons why these jobs left. Yeah, nobody's going to say that there's not reasons, but Daniela said it's not that we don't want American-made products. We don't want to pay American-made price. And even more, we want to make America-made wages. Oh, so we want to make the money but don't want to pay the money.
Well, that's exactly it. Because when you look at it, you have the people saying, we want American products, but we don't want to pay the price for American products.
Let's get her on.
But we want $15 an hour minimum wage.
Is that you, Angela?
It is me.
All right. You just hang in with us for just 1 second. And, hey, we'll cut it there. Sherry, you didn't speak that much. Give me your last thought.
Last thoughts. I actually will just take my moment just to thank RCI for coming on our show today and sharing with us his courage to run in upstate New York and taking care of my hometown. So thanks so much, RC, for stopping in today, and thanks to you fellas too for putting this on each and every single week and giving people a different perspective.
Last word, Fosha.
I don't know what to say, but I had a good time. I got to listen to everybody. I enjoy everybody I'm working with, and I think that we just need to be more calmer in life. I think we need to not take things so seriously sometimes. I think we take things way too serious. I think you sit there and you can look at either side, and they sit there and they read, and they're sitting there and they're ready to go off no matter what. But instead of going off, why don't you step back for a second and look at that person and think maybe they're going through a harder time than you are. Or maybe, you know what I mean? It's like, that's just my final thought. I think we need to be nicer to each other. I really do.
All right, give it to us, TJ.
I'm going to end things on a lighter note. You know, anybody out there listening that's not from the state of Florida, I invite you all to come here and move here and live here. Because only in Florida can you get news like we got yesterday, where a man was videotaped wrestling an alligator shirtless off Daniels Parkway in a street.
Daniels.
Off of Daniels
That's
Parkway.
in the middle of a city.
They called in to say that there was a man wrestling an alligator shirtless on the side of a 3-lane highway road. When the cops showed up, the gentleman stated he wasn't wrestling the alligator, but trying to save him by enticing him with a tire tied to a rope to get him out of a rain washout. So if you feel like you're having a bad day in New York or anywhere else in the country, come to Florida. It is never a dull moment.
That's true. Thank you for that. I think my closing thought is connect with community, right? I'm not going to go through the whole set your cell phone down or this, that, and the other. Connect with your community. It's out there. Those people are there. You're not just a politician. Get involved. If you don't have kids or your kids are grown up and gone, you know, you can get involved and volunteer to spend time coaching youth sports if you know something about sports. Wherever there's a little city center that kids gather, or you have a craft, a skill, pass that on. That knowledge matters, and no knowledge should be lost with the person. So that'd be my last word. Angela, thank you for calling. Thank you for your continual input, your great comments, great feedback. And I'm going to give you the last word, and everybody else will say goodbye. After she's done, it's done.
Go, Angela.
This has been wonderful. I'm so glad that I found this page and this outlet. It's been such a pleasure to talk to everybody, even though there's a general consensus. I think we each have our own path that we walk and we believe in. But I think that's where we can make great change.